Chapter 712. Happy Time. Han Dong received the first round of Happy Time from Pennywise's new torso replacement. The second round of Happy Time was the reward for completing the chain mission and obtaining the treasure chest. Although the main purpose of Han Dong's trip to the inner chapter was to obtain the torso, in terms of fun, this kind of treasure chest with unknown rewards was still the most exciting, long live treasure chest opening. There must be a rare treasure hidden inside. Everyone needed to open the chest to see what it was. Cass and Diana, in the second half of this incident, other than following the demonic humans to deal with the infected of the clown virus, they basically did not have much of a presence. They didn't even know what had happened in the hospital or what Han Dong had done to achieve such a perfect ending. Moreover, the team battle that was agreed upon beforehand ended when the two captains fought one-on-one. They only watched from the sidelines. Diana's understanding of Han Dong was completely different from a few months ago. She understood why Captain Coden gave him such a high evaluation. She also understood why Han Dong could become the central figure in the Great Betrayer incident when he was a trainee knight. The two of them were naturally a little embarrassed to receive the treasure chest reward. If the treasure chest contains finished equipment, we'll distribute it according to our needs. Captain, why don't you take all of it? I don't care about the equipment. Besides, even if I contributed the most in this incident, you guys will still get a certain percentage. Since we're all on the same team, we'll distribute it according to our adaptability and needs. Okay, in the lobby of the private apartment, a resurrection treasure chest that only Han Dong's team could see was placed in the lobby. It was made of a material similar to plastic. The base color was white, and there was a black swirl pattern drawn on it. The front of the chest corresponded to Pennywise's terrifying face, and the lock corresponded to the terrifying mouth full of sharp teeth. There was also a balloon tied to the side of the chest. Obviously, the design style of the treasure chest was the core character in the clown resurrection, Pennywise. Han Dong immediately went forward and popped the balloon in the upper right corner. Then, he reached out and clasped the top and bottom of the lock on the clown's head. Open the chest. The moment the chest was opened, Count, who was in a deep sleep due to the excessive consumption of his consciousness during the battle, suddenly woke up. This was because Count had inhaled a mouthful of a bright red scent that he had never smelled before in half of Europe. Compared to the high purity of blood wine, this scent was completely different. It was rich, fragrant, and contained a powerful energy. Nicholas, what did you get? Count's consciousness was just an object. Without Han Dong's permission, he could not see what was going on outside. This time, Han Dong did not reply to him directly because he was completely attracted by the scene in front of him. His attention was all on the treasure chest. There were 3 items in the resurrection treasure chest given by the true ending. 2 of them were additional rewards for reaching the true ending. Accessory, 1 Fist of Dawn type, one-handed hammer quality. Unique, purple, basic attribute, can cause light attribute and heavy crushing damage to the enemy when attacking. Equipment effect Frowny Face Defender of Dawn, passive, can cause light to cover the enemy when hitting to heal the injury. If there is no injury requiring medical treatment, it can be transformed into a light shield to protect the user. The amount of healing is equal to the light attribute damage caused by the attack. This effect can generate double the aggro. Heavy Punch, active, consumes energy. When throwing the weapon with full strength, the hammer can be transformed into a heavy punch of justice wrapped in light, dealing 300% of the weapon's basic damage to the throwing area and causing a stun effect to the living beings in the area for a maximum of 5 seconds. This skill can generate a lot of aggro. After throwing, the weapon can be returned to the user's hand through the light. Exclusive effect Frowny Face Will of the Undefeated, passive. When a user's HP is lower than 30%, the Dawn Overlord, Uritos, can be injected into the user's body, increasing the user's maximum HP by 30% and defense by 200%. The user will obtain Uritos defense experience. Lasts for 30 seconds and can be triggered once every 5 minutes. My luck is so good. Cass happened to lose his weapon in this incident. This directly gave Cass an Overlord's exclusive weapon. Not allowing Cass to say anything, Han Dong picked up the heavy one-handed hammer from the treasure chest and threw it to Cass. When Cass caught the weapon, he naturally loved it and immediately tried to swing it. Many lights flashed in the apartment. Although it was an overlord's weapon, the damage was not low at all. Although it was an accessory, it was not something that could be obtained easily. Purple equipment was not something that could be obtained just because one wanted it. In the Holy City, there would definitely be thousands of people fighting over it. Next was another very interesting accessory. Accessory 2. Node. Ridley Town share trading book. This trading book can only be used once. Through the form of a transaction, at most, 10% of the world's equity can be obtained from the ruler of Ridley Town. This, in Han Dong's eyes, this thing was more valuable than the unique equipment just now. He personally wanted to obtain a high-level node like Ridley Town. If he could bring the residents of Ridley Town out, it would be enough to form a terrifying army that would make ordinary hybrid demons tremble in fear. Of course, it was impossible to bring all of them out. If he could obtain 10% of the equity, Han Dong might be able to move freely in Ridley Town through the Gate of Destiny at any time in the future. And from the mayor's words, it seemed that Ridley Town would continue to upgrade and reach a higher level of the world. Based on the residents that Han Dong had come into contact with, all of them were carefully selected by the mayor. Each of them had great potential and could continue to grow as the town grew. The future development was worth looking forward to. Later, since we have to talk about Professor West, let's put the equity issue together. After looking at the two accessories, it was finally the turn to present the item in the center of the treasure chest. A defective item. Because of the existence of this defective item, the light emitted by the unique equipment Fist of Daybreak was forcibly suppressed. Blood Oath's Master. Roghorn's Underworld Blood Skull. Damaged. Appearance. A strange skull with 4 eyes on the left and right sides of the face, a mouth and nose connected, cone-shaped, and many protruding structures on the top and sides of the skull. The whole skull is bright red, but the whole skull is only the size of an ordinary pocket watch. Most of the attributes of the damaged equipment are weakened or lost. It can only be repaired under certain circumstances. If the repair fails, the equipment will be completely destroyed. Type: Accessory Integrity. 57%, moderate damage, quality. Lowered to epic due to damage user restriction. Believer, higher blood life basic effect. Greatly increases the recovery speed of individual health and blood affinity. Chapter 713. After carefully examining the equipment's effects, Han Dong was in a state of shock and confusion. After a while, he noticed that there was a paragraph at the end. Please offer your blood to the great god of underworld blood. Those with low blood will not be able to become a blood oath keeper and are not worthy of Loghorn's gift. Obviously, to use this incomplete item, one would need to drip blood on it, and there was a high requirement for the blood. It was not something that could be used at will. Diana, I'll take this, okay. Although Diana did not receive any equipment, she was satisfied. This was the first time she participated in a true Fate event after becoming an official knight, and the first half of the clown's resurrection had nothing to do with her. It was all thanks to Han Dong that she was able to come here. Diana was quite satisfied that she was able to clear the stage and obtain the first talent point tree. Moreover, under Han Dong's guidance, she had mastered the metamorphosis, which was the most valuable reward. Phew, my luck is off the charts. Staring at the precious equipment in the treasure chest, Han Dong found it difficult to suppress his surging emotions. He laughed hysterically. He cut open his wrist and let a large amount of blood flow into the skull accessory's mouth. The blood was of blood brew quality. System notification. Bound exclusive equipment, Blood Oathkeeper's Master. Loghorn's Underworld Blood Skull. Damaged. Holder, Warren Nicholas. A thick layer of blood red mist appeared on the surface of the skull the size of a pocket watch. A thin line similar to a blood vessel, with high tenacity, passed through the 2 eyes of the skull and hung in front of the chest. The moment he put on the equipment, a pure-blooded 100-eyed bloodhound formed behind Han Dong. It was more than 5 meters long and almost filled up the living room of the apartment. The blood-eyed hound was stronger and more ferocious. It also had a strong recovery ability and was not easy to kill. However, the enhancement brought by this accessory was far more than that. Perhaps it would be of great use in the Great Expedition in the future, or perhaps he could find an opportunity in the Great Expedition to make up for this incomplete accessory. Nicholas, when we return to the city, you must let me play with this body. This is so interesting. The destiny space of you humans is really too interesting. I can't believe that there is such a high level of blood in here. I can't believe that there is such a high level of life original serum here. Count was even more excited than Han Dong when he learned about the attributes of the accessory. He had only stayed in Han Dong's body for less than a year, but he had already seen more knowledge and novel existences than he had seen in decades. If Count was given another chance to choose again, he would definitely choose to stay. It was 100 times more interesting than him being the master of Scarlet Mountain Villa. Nicholas, congratulations. If he could find the right opportunity to repair this broken equipment, he might be able to get a legendary equipment. I can't believe that a chain event treasure chest can actually open such a rare equipment. As Cass stared at the main reward in the treasure chest, he suddenly felt that the hammer he had just obtained wasn't that good anymore. Although it was basically impossible to repair broken equipment, especially this kind of broken equipment that had reached the epic level as the first real Destiny reward, the quality was really too high. Han Dong had just become an official knight for less than a year, but he already had 2 pieces of epic equipment that were compatible with his own attributes. Looking at the development history of the Holy City, he was also one of a kind. Maybe it's the bonus effect of the reward from the perfect ending, plus today's luck is better. Cass Diana, I still have some personal matters to deal with. You can leave Dry Town first and complete the reward settlement. After a few days, we'll arrange a time to have a celebratory feast. Okay. Cass stared at the share transaction agreement and immediately nodded. Diana was a little hesitant, but she still said in the end that the permission for True Destiny was written by Uncle Coden. When the time comes, remember to come to the Night Watcher headquarters. I'll wait for you there. We have to report the situation to Uncle Coden together. Okay, I'll contact you when I come back. You can go back and rest first. You haven't slept for almost 2 days and 2 nights. Okay. Cass and Diana disappeared immediately. Han Dong was the only Fate participant left in Dry Town. He took the share transaction agreement and went to Professor West's residence. He took the bottled head and went straight to the town hall. An hour passed. The relevant matters were all explained clearly. The mayor did not show any dissatisfaction because Han Dong wanted to take the residence away. If you have 10% of the shares, you can naturally take Professor West away from me. Of course, you have to give me something of equivalent value. I'll skip the Fate equipment. I need something of high value. Han Dong stared at the 10% shares on the table and nodded slightly. He took out a lease contract. I'll use the right to use the node in the Ghost Stories world in exchange for 10% of the shares in Dry Town. Mayor, what do you think? Although the Ghost Stories world was a 5-star difficulty world, it was at the level of an apprentice knight. Currently, other than exchanging the lease contract for points, it was basically useless. It was better to give it to the mayor. Perhaps the mayor could find talents from it and promote them to Dry Town. For example, Mr. Aha, Granny Origin, or the current manager of Lighthouse, the Collector, who had already reached the level of promotion. Whether it was for Han Dong or the Ghost Stories, it was very good. You have the right to use such a small world. Interesting, you can indeed exchange it for 10% of Dry Town shares. If you're sure, please sign here. However, I have to remind you, I'm only allowing you to take Professor West away, but if you want to take him away, you'll have to pay some points. Yes, I know that. The mayor nodded to ensure that Han Dong was completely sure of the details of the transaction. After all, once the contract was signed, Han Dong would be a shareholder of Dry Town, and there would be more cooperation in the future. It's good that you know that. Professor West's level is not high, so you won't have to pay many points. However, if you want to take Miss Jane away, you definitely don't have enough points. Yes, I don't plan to take Miss Jane away. Staying in Dry Town is better for her development. After that, Han Dong signed the contract. You've lost the right to use Node, Ghost Stories, and obtain 10% of the shares in Node, Drytown. Han Dong estimated that in the near future, Drytown might have a grocery store and a recycling center. The transaction was over. The mayor stood up and lowered his head slightly. Thank you for everything you've done for Drytown. Chapter 714. The treasure chest was successfully opened and distributed. The deal with the mayor was successfully completed. The follow-up matters took less time than Han Dong expected. When he left the town hall, the clerk won first place in the competition to eliminate the clown virus carrier. He was immersed in the illusion of being alone with the mayor and had no time to deal with Han Dong. The first thing he did was to go to the monastery and take Toga back to prison. This was also one of the big gains of Han Dong in Drytown. Togu had recovered his ability. There were 10 hours left before the fate event was forced to end. As a shareholder, Han Dong would also come to the town in the future. Before leaving, Han Dong politely visited every resident he knew. He said goodbye to Director Sam, Dean Richard, Shirley, and others. He also said that he would bring some local specialties in the future. After everything had been explained, Zhang Xin nodded. Han Dong left the rest of the time for only one person. Creak, he pushed open the cold, iron door of the morgue. Because Han Dong said that he would come to her after everything was done, Miss Jane quietly lay on the autopsy table and waited. There was no unnecessary communication. Han Dong laid his body flat on the autopsy table and fell asleep, leaning against Miss Jane. In a dream, gurgling water, a man and a woman stepped barefoot on clover and walked slowly in the green field. A little snow was still piled up in the forest, but the cold air couldn't soak into the two's body. A flowery girl with green eyes and blue pupils. Her slightly curly long hair fell behind her back. She wore a simple wreath that had just been picked and made. She wore a pure white dress. Perhaps because she hadn't walked for a long time, the girl's basic walking seemed to be very difficult. She often needed the help of the young man beside her. It seemed that with the help of the young man, she was slowly adapting to walking. This dreamland was built by Miss Jane using witchcraft. It was also the island where she first became a witch. Even if the witch trials that spread across Europe also affected this island, Miss Jane, who had undergone the second ritual, directly eliminated all the knights who set foot on the island and tried to capture witches. Miss Jane had fulfilled one of her wishes by spending her last moments in this way. Actually, she really wanted to follow Nicholas to the other world, but the price was too high, and Miss Jane was very clear about her own position. Although she was currently ranked 4th in Drytown with her ancient witchcraft ability, she was still not strong enough. But in Han Dong's world, she might not even have the power to fight back and would be killed in the face of the old king. Since he couldn't bring it out, it wasn't convenient for him to bring it out either. It would be better for him to stay in Drytown and continue to grow and complete the things that he had yet to complete. The time they spent alone was fleeting. When there was only 1 minute left, Miss Jane put the flower crown on Han Dong's head and kissed his forehead. Such a gentle kiss not only represented the reluctance to part, but also transmitted a passage of ancient witchcraft from Northern Europe in a Han Dong's mind. These things might be useful to you. In the other world, you must live well. Yes, the dream dissipated. When Han Dong woke up, he was no longer in Miss Jane's dissection room. Instead, he came to the familiar pure white space to complete the settlement of the destiny events. Miss Jane is really generous. These ancient witchcraft from Northern Europe should be very rare. Maybe there are very few records in the Holy City. It might be very useful to Mia. I'll improve Mia's strength. It might be useful in the future. Although Han Dong did not have many emotional fluctuations, when he thought of the memory in the dream, he could not help but show a natural smile that did not belong to the category of crazy laughter. Congratulations on completing The Resurrection of the Clown, Part 2. All the chain events have been completed. Time taken, 11 days and 10 hours completion. 100% perfect. Rewards. 1. Resurrection Treasure Chest. Obtained. 2. Drytown Shares. 10%. Obtained. 3. Golden Souvenir. The Resurrection of the Clown. 4. Destiny points, tree, ×2 at the end of the settlement. A clown trophy made of pure gold immediately appeared in Han Dong's hand. It could be exchanged for a high amount of 200 points. As for the destiny points obtained now, it was completely different from before. This was a special point that was allocated to the talent tree. Its value was extremely high. Perhaps only participants like Han Dong, who had a 100% completion rate of the destiny events, could obtain extra points. For true fate, the value of points was the highest. In the blink of an eye, the scene in the White Room had changed. The way to allocate points has changed? What is the destiny space? There is no longer a need to go to a separate room, sit on a device similar to an electric chair, and inject a strange drug into his body to stimulate the seed. In the settlement space, the talent tree, smiley face, that should have existed in Han Dong's mind was actually projected to the center of the White Room through a special method. On the withered tree that was surrounded by the aura of death, hung red fruits and strange balloons. It felt as if the branches of the tree were like tentacles, wriggling extremely slowly. Detected that the participant is participating in true fate for the first time. You have not invested any points in the talent tree. The system will guide you if you invest points for the first time. Please step forward and touch the projection of your talent tree. As Han Dong placed his palm on the surface of the tree, a detailed distribution panel was immediately projected in front of him. The panel corresponded to the 3 different systems that the talent tree, smiley face, could develop in the future. For every participant of true fate, mature, there are 3 different systems in the talent tree. Each system is closely related to the individual's ability, giving participants of true fate more options to grow. The concept of layers will be introduced here. Every layer corresponds to the talent slots of the 3 systems. Once a destiny point is invested into one of the slots, the other 2 talent slots of the same layer will disappear and can no longer be invested. The next time you obtain points, you will be allocated at the second layer. You have obtained 2 points to be allocated due to a perfect completion, but you're only allowed to invest 1 point in each layer. Please choose carefully. Oh, so I have to choose and give up. What a troublesome choice. However, this kind of setting is really interesting. It can actually give me such a huge boost, not just the increase in the seed's energy. Moreover, this talent tree that is formed with the help of the destiny space can even contain power from outside the city. Han Dong stared at his own panel, the corners of his mouth curling upwards uncontrollably as he squeezed out a laugh from his throat. The 3 systems that were given were rather interesting and powerful. Talent tree, smiley face, System 1. Faceless myth, System 2. Dark magic, System 3. Journey of insane laughter. Chapter 715. Faceless Myth, Level 1. Master of Disguise, I am both you and him. Innate Effect, Disguise Level +1, reduces the risk of being detected by higher life forms. As long as you come into contact with the disguised target or possess the disguised target's body part, you can undergo deep disguise and obtain part of the disguised target's abilities. Dark Magic, Level 1. Dark Knowledge. The Dark Scholars in the Fallen Abyss have been cursed by the dark knowledge. They will continue to read endlessly until they die. Innate Effect, Dark Learning Ability +1, able to learn beyond one's level. During the learning period, there is a small chance of entering dark meditation state. Increases learning efficiency by 100%. Attempts to fuse dark magic that has already been mastered. Last for 10 minutes. Journey of Mad Laughter, Level 1. Pain Transmission. Everyone wears a mask to hide their smiles. They will often take off their masks when they witness the pain of others, revealing a genuine smile from the bottom of their hearts. Innate Effect. Mad Laughter. S area of effect +20%. There is a chance of inflicting vulnerability on the target. Vulnerability increases damage from any source. Those were the effects of the first level of the innate skill tree. Compared to the seed stage, where the increase in points only corresponded to the increase in energy capacity, Every point in the innate skill tree corresponded to the increase in energy capacity. The three options were quite tempting. No wonder there is such a huge gap between knights. So this is the reason. This is the real improvement brought by the Gate of Fate. The seed stage is just laying the foundation. Master of Disguise could help Han Dong find a shortcut in many situations. Things that were extremely difficult for others could be easily solved by Han Dong. Dark Knowledge was also quite tempting. It could increase Han Dong's learning ability. Combined with the effect of Mad Laughter's mental focus, Han Dong's learning efficiency would be beyond imagination. Under certain conditions, he could even fuse the chaotic dark magic in his body. Enhanced Transmission had a good effect, but it was slightly weaker than the other two options. Once I choose one of them, the other slots for the innate skill tree will disappear. This is so uncomfortable. Click on the projection screen to insert the corresponding points. As for the first floor, Han Dong hesitated between Faceless and Darkness. In the end, he chose Dark Knowledge. A Master of Disguise was useful, especially in Fate. However, the final battlefield would be in the real world. Even if he could disguise himself and stab the hybrid demons in the back, this stab would have to be powerful enough to kill them. For Han Dong, who was a straight-A student, learning itself was addictive. At the end of the selection, Han Dong immediately felt a wave of dark energy spreading in his cranial cavity. His understanding of black sand and chrome magic became smoother. At the same time, there were 3 eye-catching dots at the bottom of Smiley Face. They were about the size of finger. One was gray, one was black, and one was red. The 3 dots represented Level 1. Due to Han Dong's choice, the gray and red dots were removed, and the black dot lit up with a faint black light, representing the activation of the innate ability, Dark Knowledge. The changes continued. At the top of the activated black dot, a straight line extended upward. It was about 5 centimeters long and arrived at the second level of the talent tree. On the same row, there were still 3 dots of different colors, representing 3 different talents. Faceless Myth, Level 2, a tentacle lover. More. I want more. Grilled squid tentacles. Effect. Number of tentacles plus 20%. Attack range plus 20%. Control plus 10%. Mutated demon minus 30%. Dark magic. Level 2, a destitute crow farmer. A man contracted a crow forest and tried to earn money by raising crows. A year later, due to the fact that he was an outsider who wanted something new, he earned quite a bit of money. This person and the crow became best friends. In the 3rd year, the sales were terrible. This man starved to death. When he was found, his body had already been eaten by the crows. Effect. Crow's single target. Black magic increased by 50%. Mass magic decreased by 20%. Individual's transformation into a crow man deepened by 20%. Increases the consciousness connection between the individual and the god of crows. The process of the consciousness traveling to the crow tribe headquarters will be smoother. Journey of Mad Laughter. Level 2, a delicious red fruit. One day, Little John from the farm discovers secret. As long as he cut his finger and drew a red smiley face on the fruit would become sweet and delicious. When Little John grew up, there were often cases of children going missing in his town. Effect. The red fruit on the talent tree can be materialized and brought to reality. At most, one fruit can be brought at a time. There will be a cooldown time after it is completely consumed. The cooldown time is 24 hours. Eating red fruit, materialized, can replenish a large amount of health points, remove all negative effects, and make the individual in a state of excitement. Excitement. Aberration ability plus 50%. Scarlet-related abilities increase by 50%. Lasts for 10 minutes. The fruit juice has reached the level of high-grade blood wine. Personal consumption only. For the various effects of this level, Han Dong's gaze only lingered on the delicious red fruit for a moment. He decisively allocated the second hard-earned talent point to the tentacle enthusiast. Don't ask why, but Han Dong had already planned a path for himself in his heart. Once there was anything related to the enhancement of the tentacle door, he would definitely choose it, along with the grade up being retained. For Han Dong, he immediately felt a large number of tentacles overflowing from his brain. This caused tentacles to grow out from the 7 orifices on Han Dong's face. After adapting to the increase in tentacles, Han Dong returned to his normal human appearance and revealed an excited, strange smile. At this time, the projection of the talent tree in the calculation space also disappeared. This power is truly exhilarating. This way, the great expedition will be very successful. Han Dong had imagined the upgrade of the talent tree long ago, but he did not expect it to bring such a huge increase to the individual. It could even include abilities outside the city. Immediately after, Han Dong used the clown souvenir to exchange for 200 destiny points. Including the 60 points from the year rental in the Ghost Stories world, he had a total of 260 points. The previous points were used to buy the materials for the Raven and have been emptied. Before leaving, he arrived at the Dyson Sphere that could be traded for points. I need to ask, how many points do I need to spend to take away the resident of Ridley Town, Herbert West? You have 10% of Ridley Town's shares, and the individual is willing to follow you. The estimated cost is 200 points. So expensive? No wonder the Holy City did not advocate exchanging life forms in the Destiny space. Professor West's individual strength is completely at the bottom of Ridley Town, but it costs so many points. Chapter 716. Of course, what Han Dong needed was not to train Professor West as a follower, but to go to his own laboratory and help with research. Its value was far higher than the current points. Even if it was 200 points, it didn't matter. As for the remaining 60 points, Han Dong also decided to use them all on Chun-Li. After the trip to Dry Town, Togo had returned to the original strength of the 8th demon and became Han Dong's #1 general. Nicole's main responsibility was to assist and heal. Moreover, she was also a descendant of the Deep Sea royal family, so there was no need to worry about her potential. Only Miss Chun-Li, whether it was her fighting strength or her own potential, could not keep up with the pace. Because Chun-Li came from the original Fate instance, and she was not an evil spirit, she was just an ordinary human who practiced a little evil magic. She cannot be compared with existences like Togu and Nicole. Continuing like this was not a solution. Once there was a serious gap in strength, whether it was for Han Dong or Chun-Li, it would be very dangerous. Inside the portable prison, Han Dong and Miss Chun-Li, who was wearing a red dress and had fluttering black hair, sat in a row. This is the general situation. I currently have 2 methods. First, I will spend points to put you into the evil Fate world, improve your personality, and wait until the right time to bring you back. Second, send Miss Chun-Li back to your original world, or find you a world of the same era as 9 regions. I will take the initiative to remove the master-servant relationship between us. If you force yourself to follow me, you will be in danger. Miss Chun-Li followed Han Dong all the way. In the early stage, it could be said that she helped a lot. The Book of the Dead, I part copy, was obtained with Chun-Li's help. A mere 60 points, Han Dong was willing to use them all on Chun-Li. Chun-Li lowered her head the whole time. Her drooping black hair covered her face. A low voice was heard. Please send me to a very difficult Fate world, where the mortality rate is more than 90%. If I survive, I will continue to follow you. If I don't survive, you can find new assistant. When I leave my original world, the only meaning left for me to live is to help you, sir. If I can't even do this, I am more willing to choose death. There was no need for me to return to a normal life, nor did I want to. So, Mr. Han Dong, please don't worry too much and just throw me into a dangerous world. All right. For a woman as headstrong as Chun-Li, it was better for her to die than to live an ignoble life. In order to keep up with Han Dong's footsteps, if one did not have a unique talent, they would have to fight to survive. Han Dong immediately requested the highly intelligent Dyson Sphere to help Chun-Li choose the Destiny World, Night Stage, for her personal training. The sphere immediately came up with the following 3 best options according to Han Dong's request. Ring, 60 points, enough for the servant to stay in the inner sanctum for 3 years. The Yin-Yang Road series, 60 points could allow the servant to move around for a year. A wicked ghost, 60 points, enough for a servant to move around for half a year. The above arrangement is only for personal trials. It will not trigger any storyline, nor will it obtain any system rewards. I've seen all these Asian horror movies when I was young. Sure enough, it's based on Chun-Li's characteristics. The ring doesn't have much meaning. The theme revolves around curses and female ghosts. A wicked ghost is only active for half a year. The death rate will definitely be frighteningly high. The most suitable world is the Yin-Yang Road series. It will give Chun-Li more choices. Chun-Li did not ask too much. She completely trusted Han Dong. Following the deduction of points, a special Black Destiny portal was formed. Chun-Li took the initiative to enter it. The master-servant relationship between the two still existed, but because of the spatial barrier, the connection slowly faded until it almost did not exist. Chun-Li had been brought to a faraway world. The only thing Han Dong could sense was whether Chun-Li was alive or not. Phew! The first trip to True Destiny is finally over. In the blink of an eye, Han Dong had returned to the familiar clock tower area. Just as he was about to leave the clock tower, the clock appeared at the door. In its hand was a destiny questionnaire that Han Dong had to fill. While filling the questionnaire, Han Dong stared at the whirlpool mask on the clock's face. He immediately linked it to the black vortex. Just as Han Dong finished filling in the questionnaire, he prepared to use the name of the black and white teacher to discuss this matter with the clock. Unexpectedly, the other party asked first, "You came into contact with the black vortex?" Yes, the main target in True Destiny is a black vortex reporter who has lost control. As expected of Mr. White's student, the next time you enter the Destiny realm, come and see me first. When the clock received the questionnaire from Han Dong, it also left a whirlpool mark on the blank space of the questionnaire. All right. Following the coordination of the gears and steam, the clock tower door slowly opened. Han Dong stepped out of the clock tower. He breathed in the unique air of the holy city and was about to stretch his arms. A spider shadow quickly attacked from the front. Soft and slender legs wearing black silk instantly stepped on Han Dong's body. The slender body wearing the witch dress also tightly stuck to Han Dong's body. His movement speed and consistency were much better than before. Compared to before, some of Mia's habits were more similar to that of spiders. "My dear, you're finally back. I was so worried. I didn't know that you could go to the Destiny realm with me after I got out of the special state of insect possession. I heard that you brought an unfamiliar girl with you. Is that true?" The first and only one who was waiting for Han Dong's return at the entrance of the clock tower was Mia. She was indeed very worried about Han Dong, but she seemed to be more concerned about which girl Han Dong went to the Destiny realm with. "Yeah, she's a very cute girl." Han Dong purposely said this, but when he thought of Diana's soft body, she was indeed cute. She should have gone back to rest by now. After hearing Han Dong's words, Mia was so angry that 8 super long spider legs grew out from her back and madly slashed in the air, producing a sharp sound of wind cutting. "You scumbag. What is this? Is this a token of love from the girl?" Mia's sharp insight immediately noticed that there was a thin string hanging around Han Dong's neck. Flustered and exasperated, she immediately reached for Han Dong's collar, wanting to pull out the necklace that was connected to the string and use the aura on it to kill her love rival. Unexpectedly, a surge of blood energy rushed straight into Mia's body, scaring her more than 10 meters away. "Don't touch it. This is the equipment I just got. It's a bit strange. Also, remember to wait for me in the treehouse tonight. I'll pass some witchcraft stuff to you." Hearing such an answer, Mia was immediately at a loss. "Tonight, treehouse. You scumbag. I'll reluctantly forgive you. You should be a grade 1 knight. Now, quickly go to the knight headquarters to get your medal. I'll wait for you in the treehouse. Remember to come after you're done." Grade 1 knight? Yes. After successfully passing the Destiny realm, You'll be allocated a destiny point on the talent tree, and you'll be a grade 1 knight. The points allocated correspond to your rank. It's a very simple categorization. Oh, then I should be a grade 2 knight. When he said this, Mia was stunned. Her head turned a full circle around her neck, typing out countless question marks. Chapter 717. Tier 2. Tier 2 Knight? Impossible. This is not the Destiny realm where seeds grow. No matter how good True Fate's performance is, you can only obtain one talent at a time. No special circumstances? It was Han Dong's first time clearing True Fate, so he was not clear about this problem. Mia, whose head was full of question marks, thought about Han Dong's uniqueness. Indeed, anything could happen to him. Thus, Mia did not ask in detail, but thought of another question. There might be special circumstances, but I don't know about it. That's right. What is the development path of your talent tree? Most people only have one path, but you should have two, right? 3. This answer stunned Mia again. At the same time, Mia had a bad idea in her heart. She walked forward, tiptoed, and patted Han Dong's head, then put her forehead on it to check if Han Dong's brain was damaged in the Destiny realm. 3 paths? Yes. 3. Speaking of which, I still have to go to the Knight's headquarters and the Night Watcher's headquarters. I also have to go to Teacher and Captain Hugo's place. I'll tell you the details when I come back. I brought you a special gift. Oh, okay. Thank you. Dear, you. I'll wait for you in the swamp treehouse. Mia's mind was in a mess, and she changed her wording a few times. Although Mia had joined the Knights of Misfortune, but because of her uniqueness, she was one of the top 10 elites of this year's night conference. The Knights of Misfortune allowed her to stay in the swamp to learn from the witch, and the treehouse had always belonged to Mia. All right, Mia. You and Dimps both belong to the Knights of Misfortune. How is that kid doing recently? I'm not sure about the details. Dimps and I have a completely different way of training our knights. I focus on curse training, and I mainly follow the cursing sect under Vice Captain Archimedes. I often go back and forth to the Witch's Swamp, which is a semi-open training method. Dimps, on the other hand, was directly following the Great Demon Captain to train as a demon man, so he was rarely seen. However, even if I saw him, I wouldn't bother with him. In my heart, there's only... As Mia spoke, she lowered her voice and muttered to herself. All right, Mia, you can go back first. Yes. The Knight headquarters and the lighthouse were both located on the 3rd floor of the Holy City. Han Dong also chose to walk there. In terms of fatigue, Han Dong was still fine. Before the Fate event ended, he had slept on the same bed as Miss Jane for almost 10 hours. Coupled with the addition of a new body, his mental and physical condition was excellent. He did not look like a knight who had just escaped from his true fate and experienced the trials of life and death. It seems a little different. No wonder. I was wondering how such a huge increase in talent points could be obtained in one go. It might have something to do with the chain events and the 100% perfect clearance. As Han Dong arrived at the Knight's headquarters alone, he handed in the information of clearing True Fate. The relatively quiet main hall of the headquarters became lively in a short period of time. After all, Han Dong had fulfilled 3 of the more eye-catching conditions. 1. Joining the Knights as the first in line in this year's Knight selection. 2. Entering True Fate not long after joining the Knights and successfully surviving and clearing the level. Many people wanted to see how such a genius looked like and what was so special about him. Of course, there was also the first and most important condition. 3. Han Dong directly became a Grade 2 Knight. This news quickly spread within the Holy City. Through the internal newspaper of the Knights, it was distributed to the National Royal Knight Academy, various local churches, families, the 13 Knights, and the Supreme Council. After all, such a personal matter was worth publicizing and promoting. Night Watcher Headquarters. Commander Coden, who had just heard the details of the Inside chapter from Diana, immediately received today's newspaper from the Night Watcher's Information Department. He immediately set off. At the same underground area, the Hell Knights. Ha 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 ha. Nicholas, this brat is really strong. Seems like he fulfilled a few conditions for the Master of Fate to give out 2 points as a reward. Ha ha ha. How interesting. Commander Malone stared at the front page of the newspaper and laughed loudly. Even the entire Hell courtyard was filled with his laughter. Even if Han Dong did not choose the Hell Knights, Commander Malone's attitude towards this young man had never changed. Moreover, Han Dong had a small amount of the Hell attribute in his body. Even if he was in a different Knight Guild, he would still be in contact with him in the future. Elsewhere, the Knights of Destiny. Death God Alex only glanced at the newspaper sent by the correspondent and then put it aside. Alex thought that Han Dong's performance was completely normal. After all, he had also received 2 fate points in True Fate. It was only natural that this young man whom he had taken a fancy to could reach such a level. For a moment, Han Dong's name once again spread throughout the holy city. His view turned towards Han Dong. He was a person who was afraid of trouble. When he reached the rank of Rank 2 Knight in the Knight Guild headquarters, 2 lines were engraved on his waist tag. He immediately covered himself with the doctor's bird's beak and quietly left. Who would have thought that just as Han Dong took a few steps out of the Knight Guild headquarters, silent and formless, just as Han Dong's mind that had just leveled up had a very slight reaction and was about to turn around. A hand landed on his shoulder. Whoosh! Han Dong was not allowed to resist. The mysterious person behind him lightly stepped on the ground and broke through the speed of sound. In the next second, Han Dong was brought to a dark-colored carriage that was more than 10 meters away. The carriage was made of cold iron and was pulled by a handsome, pure-blooded black horse with a handsome mane. The person who came was Commander Coden. Commander Coden. Han Dong was a little dumbfounded. Although he wasn't on guard just now, it was still too exaggerated. Diana has already reported to me what happened in True Fate. There is no need for you to come again. You did very well, even better than I expected. Moreover, the whole process, especially the matter of the mutated demon, was thanks to your help and guidance. You helped Diana get through her first True Fate, which was the most dangerous thing to happen. Also, try your best to complete as many of the Night Watcher's missions as possible before the Great Expedition. In the near future, we will slowly carry out the selection of the Expeditionary Army and various preparations. Excellent performance will be beneficial to you. Yes, Commander Coden. Finally, Commander Coden put his hand on Han Dong's shoulder and said earnestly, Diana's situation is very different. She has an Eastern face and a cold and unapproachable personality. She is not close to anyone in my Knight Guild. I have a lot of things to deal with, so I can't take care of her often. She had just turned 18 this year and was younger than the average knight. Try to bring her along when carrying out Night Watcher's missions. Okay. Commander Coden's conversation with Han Dong made it sound like he was in a hurry to marry off his daughter. Although Diana was beautiful, had a soft body, and had great potential and strength, she was not weak. The only problem was that Han Dong was not interested in her. Furthermore, if he were to accept Diana and mistreat her in certain areas, the situation would become very bad if Captain Coden were to find out about it. It was more convenient to use girls like Mia, who had no background and could be easily manipulated. Chapter 718. Great Expedition. The most important journey in human history was about to begin. For the specific situation, Han Dong still had to learn from Mr. Black and White or Captain Hugo. After all, this was not an action that was proposed and carried out immediately. Instead, it was a battle plan that was finally decided after hundreds of years of precipitation and hundreds of joint discussions by important institutions such as the 13 Knights, the Holy See, and the royal family. The preparations for the Great Expedition had always been carried out in secret. However, with the return of the 2 core combat forces, this battle plan was about to surface and be known by the entire Holy City. As Han Dong walked down from Captain Coden's exclusive carriage, a complaint came from behind him. Nicholas, when can we go to your biological laboratory? This backward steam city is really boring. I just want to be able to start the research project as soon as possible. The person who spoke was Professor West, head in a glass container, that Han Dong had exchanged with points. Han Dong carried the loose-fitting backpack that was given to him by purchasing a living creature. No hurry. I just returned to the city and need to deal with some social matters. We'll set off in a while. Han Dong immediately went to the headquarters of his Night Order, the secret library. However, just as Han Dong came to the intersection and was about to authenticate his identity, a letter was spat out from the mailbox. Currently, the secret library is undergoing in-depth deciphering of the hybrid demon slate project. In order to avoid the space-time turbulence during the deciphering process, the current street and the space of the secret library have been completely sealed. The estimated time to unseal is 7 days and 9 hours. The deciphering of the hybrid demon slate has caused space-time turbulence. Okay, since that was the case, Han Dong did not waste any more time. He immediately took the carriage back to the familiar Night Academy. Han Dong was currently the most famous figure in the academy recently. Due to his achievements in the Night Conference, the enrollment of the Mystery Branch this year had more than doubled. The attention of the Mystery Branch had also increased. More teachers were admitted, the coverage of the Dark Moon was wider, and more project funds were available. As the carriage stopped in front of the familiar Dark Moon Tower, the cemetery butler who specially received Han Dong was still by his side, providing services within his ability until Han Dong boarded the elevator to the stargazing room. In the stargazing room, Mr. Black and White had just mixed a glass of wine and sat down. Teacher, it's beyond my expectations. I didn't expect you to get involved with the Black Vortex so quickly. Mr. Black and White's focus was completely different. It seemed like the relationship with the Black Vortex was more precious than the additional talent points. Just as Han Dong was about to ask more questions, a voice suddenly rang out. Mr. Black and White immediately raised his hand and said, "You don't have to ask me about the Black Vortex. When you are ready for your next trip to the Destiny Realm, go to the Clock Tower a few days in advance to look for the Clockmaker. She knows more about the Black Vortex than I do." All right. After Mr. Black and White took a sip of his drink, he changed the topic back to something important. What do you think of the Great Expedition? I really don't know much about it, but I'm willing to participate. As long as you're willing. I believe that Captain Hugo also wants you to be the representative of his Night Order. I'll talk to you directly about the early stage of the Great Expedition. You have to set your own goal and prepare well. Okay. Han Dong immediately focused his mind and planned to memorize every word Mr. Black and White said. Due to the return of Death and Malone, the identity of the great traitor of the Holy City has been revealed. The total amount of the Holy City's resources provided by the investor has been reported. The total number of official knights has been further increased. The basic requirements for the Great Expedition have been fully met. The relevant rules and regulations will be released within a month. It mainly involves the selection of the expeditionary force. It's not only a selection of the individual knight's strength, but also a selection of their function and resistance. The scale of this expedition will be unprecedented. Whether it's the total journey, the number of battles, the time spent, or the strength of the targets to be confronted, it will far exceed the previous expeditions. Without the protection of the Holy City, without a safe place to live, you have to move forward in a polluted world without light. It's necessary to ensure that every knight of the expeditionary force has strong enough faith and spirit to bear all this. The concept of 10 hybrid demons and 1 hybrid demon is absolutely different. The selection of the expeditionary force will never be determined through a certain competition. Instead, it will be determined secretly based on the knight's personal experience and the results of dealing with special events. You should understand what I mean. Personally, I suggest that you can pass the selection of the expeditionary force through the following 3 channels. First, as a knight of the Secret Word Knights, you will participate in the deciphering of the hybrid demon slate. Second, as a night watcher, you can complete some special missions during this period of time. Third, the investor's laboratory. Of course, you could try all 3 of the channels I mentioned. It will be very helpful for you. Thank you for your guidance, teacher. Teacher, will you go to the expedition? Han Dong asked a question that many leaders of the Holy City were still uncertain about. No. Mr. Black and White's answer was unusually firm, without the slightest hesitation. It was as if Black and White had seen something in advance, or Mr. Black and White's position was too special for the Holy City. The Holy City needs me to guard it and prevent the worst situation from happening. The worst situation. For a moment, the terrifying image of the expeditionary force falling and the Holy City being breached appeared in Han Dong's mind. At this moment, a smile appeared on the black mask. Don't worry. The reason why the great expedition was launched is that we have made sufficient preparations. The real preparation time has exceeded 100 years. Well, there are indeed too many complicated problems that need to be solved in advance. I'm not good at this. Han Dong estimated that the great expedition might take more than 10 years. The expedition would completely break the inherent way of survival that humans were used to. How to solve the long-term pollution problem. How to solve the problem of power, energy, and food supply. What changes had happened to the areas beyond the exploration boundary. How to deal with emergencies at the level of the old king. There were too many problems that needed to be thought of in advance, and at least 2 solutions. However, Han Dong did not need to think about these. The reason why Han Dong wanted to participate in the Great Expedition was that, in addition to contributing to the cause of human freedom as an official knight, he also had a certain degree of selfishness. In addition, there was only one question that Han Dong was most concerned about. Teacher, what is the ultimate goal of the Great Expedition launched by the Holy City this time? The answers that Han Dong gave in advance in his heart were to reclaim the territory that should belong to humans, to build the 4th main city, and so on. However, Mr. Black and White clasped his hands together and rested his chin on them. He whispered, to kill the old king. Chapter 719. The Old King. The incident with the Old King was still a memory that Han Dong could not erase from his mind, although the Old King was driven out by the Grim Reaper at that time. However, it was also based on the fact that the Grim Reaper was at his peak, the territory was located at the gate of the Holy City, and there were several battle-ready commanders at the gate, as well as the fact that the entire Holy City's forces could be deployed at any time. If they really wanted to go deep into the territory of the Old King, it would be a different situation. Not all of the Old Kings, just a single Old King of a lower level. Of course, the whole process will be extremely difficult, and it will also be the first official expedition against the Old King in human history. This is the ultimate goal of the Great Expedition. Of course, the Great Expedition will not be completed in one go. It will be carried out in stages, and each stage has a corresponding goal. If the overall conditions of the expeditionary force cannot meet the preset standards of the second stage, when the first stage is completed, the entire expedition will end immediately. If we can defeat the Old King in one go, it will be of great significance to the Holy City and the whole world. It will also be the most important milestone in human history, and an important step in our recovery of the lost territory. Han Dong could understand, and the significance of the fall of the Old King was definitely not what Mr. Black and White was talking about. It was extremely important to the entire human civilization. For now, you just have to do your own thing. Go! If you need to use the stargazing room for any training or learning, you can come over at any time. Okay, Han Dong was neither a counselor nor a leader of the knights, so these things were not for him to worry about. He just had to do his own thing. What he had to do next was something very important. Since there was plenty of time today, Han Dong immediately took Mr. Black and White's carriage and headed out of the city. Since he was leaving today, he did not ask Dems to come along. It would be best to invite this group of friends after they all passed the true fate test. The moment the carriage left the city gate, the sky quickly darkened and was replaced by the eternal night. Han Dong held the glass bottle by the window so that Dr. Swollen could see these scenes that he had never seen before. There were trees with sucker structures, evil spirits lurking in the forest, wild monsters, and a few pagans performing strange rituals in the forest. This is truly inconceivable, A finger grew out from the bottom of Professor West's neck and gently pushed the frame of his glasses. He could not wait to study this strange life form that he had never seen before. It was accompanied by the cawing of crows. They arrived at Han Dong's territory, the Stewart Manor. Everything inside was fine. This estate that was jointly managed by the Crowman tribe and Dr. Swollen was 10 times stronger than when Lord Stewart had been in charge. No idiot would dare to cause trouble here. Congratulations to Lord Nicholas for reaching a new height. The Crowman elders who came to greet him were also able to see through the eyes hidden under their feathers that Han Dong was different from the rest. Whether it was the body, the necklace, or the aura emanating from the head, all of them had undergone a qualitative change. The Crowmen were even more determined to follow Han Dong. My lord, your room is being cleaned every day. There is currently a humanoid female Crowman waiting at your door to take care of you for the next few days. Han Dong hurriedly waved his hand. There's no need for that. I have to go back tonight. I came here mainly to find Dr. Swollen. Very well. Is there anything the Lord needs our Crowman tribe to do? Han Dong had not ordered any major operations in the past, except for the land deed war against Scarlet Manor. There is no such thing, but I need you to make preparations in the near future. The Holy City's expedition is imminent and will probably be completed within a year. I will also be going on the expedition, so I will naturally need your help when the time comes. The only thing I need you to do is to hope that when the great expedition begins, there will be more elite Crowman troops, as well as a mature Crowman Great Elder. Okay, he gave a few simple instructions. Han Dong immediately went through the secret passage to the familiar underground experimental area and found that the experimental area had already undergone many changes. The various connecting devices of the culture chambers had all sorts of gears and steam structures, further improving the process of nurturing ghoul larvae, optimizing the parameters, and increasing the proportion of high-quality culture bodies. This was obviously the result of the cooperation with the investor. While Han Dong was in the Destiny realm, Dr. Swollen had already perfected the installation of the automation equipment. As Han Dong arrived at the core laboratory, he found that Dr. Swollen was using his free time to lie down on the metal bed used for the experiment. And at the head of the bed, the head nurse from the ghost story was using a micron-grade high-precision water gun to help Dr. Swollen's brain. When the head nurse saw Han Dong's arrival, she hurriedly explained, "Sir, some time ago, a group of strange mechanical knights came here and brought a lot of high-grade materials. Dr. Swollen spent 4 days and 4 nights to optimize the laboratory. He is now in a state of deep sleep, and I am helping him clean the metabolites formed in his brain. It's fine." Han Dong also said that he would let Dr. Swollen sleep for a while, and he would take Professor West for a tour. Who knew? Because Han Dong's main body was approaching. The moment he smelled the scent, Dr. Swollen immediately woke up from his deep sleep. He immediately buckled his skull and knelt on one knee in front of Han Dong. "Doctor, don't be so polite. I have seen all the modifications in the laboratory. It has been hard on you during this period. The Steam Knights didn't interfere with any of the experimental projects here, right?" "No. The people who came to deliver the materials were some deeply mechanized humans wearing strange robes. They can't even be considered human. After they delivered the materials, they would wipe their memories in front of me. They are very reliable collaborators. Well, it seems like I have to find a time to meet Mr. Newton and the investor. It's not good to take the money without doing anything. Doctor, this time I'm only here for one thing." As Han Dong spoke, he took out Professor West's head from his backpack. "This is Professor Herbert West, whom I met in the Destiny realm. He has a deep understanding of the field of human chemistry. I hope that the two of you can cooperate and jointly manage the Ghoul Laboratory in Stewart Manor, as well as the Hybrid Laboratory in Scarlet Manor. Of course, your research topics are different. Professor West will be your assistant for a month-long internship in the early stages. After a month, I will expand the scale of the laboratory as much as possible and try to conduct more in-depth biological experiments. Please advise me." Like a tracks like. When Professor West and Dr. Swollen looked at each other, sparks of scientific research instantly appeared. Moreover, Professor West's personality was relatively weak. Han Dong had also defined the internship period and assistant in advance, so the two of them would definitely get along well. Chapter 720. In just an hour, Dr. Swollen and West walked around the manor's experimental area. After an in-depth scientific discussion of the existing experimental equipment and research projects, they had found a common topic. During the discussion, they slowly walked back to the core laboratory and forgot about the existence of Han Dong. Seeing this, Han Dong was no longer worried about the situation of two tigers cannot live on one mountain. Doctor, please provide me with some recent research reports. I will go back and study them. If there are any new experimental directions or problems that you want to solve, try as much as possible. It is estimated that in a year, the Great Expedition will officially start. I need a large number of special forces to follow me on the expedition. In addition, I will also try to communicate with the investor on a deeper level and introduce some STEAM technology, such as prosthetics, power cores, or automation devices. After all, this world has completely abandoned the technology line of electricity and has reached a higher level of technology through STEAM. After a while, I will come to you to talk in detail. Han Dong immediately brought West to the manor to meet with Dr. Swollen. This was because Han Dong firmly believed that science and technology are the #1 productive force and could not be delayed for a moment. At this moment, Professor West in the glass jar also gave an affirmative answer to the laboratory. Except for the lack of electricity, here, everything is very interesting. However, my brain is far from the level of a computer. It is very time-consuming to calculate with the human brain alone, and there will be distractions. If your world is dominated by STEAM technology, then the difference engine may have reached the level of a transistor computer or even higher. If there's a chance, bring a few super large computers over. Well, if you have any requests, just let me know. In the remaining hours, Han Dong, Dr. Swollen, and West had a relatively superficial scientific research discussion and basically determined a research direction. But the final research direction still had to wait until Han Dong met with the investor. That was it. After leaving West behind, Han Dong returned to the Holy City alone. The time of the scientific research discussion was really fast. When he returned to the Holy City, it was already late at night. He walked quickly along the familiar Dark Moon Avenue, bypassed the tower, and turned into the stagnant water swamp. Mia's small treehouse was inside. A few hours ago, Mia had been waiting by the window. Although she was often deceived by Han Dong in the past, she still believed that her sweetheart would not deceive her. Moreover, Mia was also looking forward to the gift Han Dong brought back for her. True fate is fraught with danger. Nicholas even specially brought me a gift from the Fate Realm. Could it be that he really... While Mia was immersed in her own fantasy, a figure quickly stepped onto the suspension bridge between the swamp. Before Mia could react, the door of the wooden house was pushed open. Mia, let's go. Oh, where are we going? Didn't you say it was in the tree house? Mia had about a quarter of the space in her head, and she was imagining the scene of the two of them making love in the treehouse. I just asked you to wait in the treehouse. I didn't say that you have to stay here all the time tonight. Let's go to the witch school. I have a special gift for you. Sure. While the two of them were leaping rapidly between the crooked trees in the swamp, Han Dong could clearly feel the change in Mia. Her speed was much faster. Without paying attention, Mia had already opened up a distance of 50 meters. Dear, do you want me to wait for you? Just as Mia slowed down her footsteps and tried to wait for Han Dong, whose body had deviated from her impression. A transparent tentacle mixed with a void attribute that was almost invisible in the night quickly shot over and touched the branch beside Mia. Whoosh Han Dong had already appeared beside her. Space movement? Han Dong showed a new ability that scared Mia to the spot. Speed and space movement may be two different concepts, as if they were on different levels. Han Dong praised. Mia, your speed seems to have increased a lot. The full potential of the insect transformation seems to have brought you a lot of improvement. What's the use of being fast How can it be compared to your ability? Can you let me experience the feeling of short-distance space movement? Before Han Dong could respond, Mia jumped directly on his back. The thin black silk stuck to Han Dong's waist and hugged him tightly. It had to be said that Mia's body was really light, about 70 kilograms, which may have something to do with the body of the insect transformation. Whoosh! A series of transparent tentacles shot out. Touch and transfer. They didn't even need to take the boat to the center of the swamp. With the extension ability of the tentacles, they touched the central island 100 meters away and directly arrived in front of the witch school. At present, there happened to be a group of mystery branch students who specialized in witchcraft gathered in the school to listen to the witch Kaluna's class. They also needed to perform witchcraft in front of the witch one by one until they reached the standard before they were allowed to leave. Senior Mia, in the eyes of this group of apprentice knights, Mia, who won the top 10 of the last night election as a witch, was their role model. One by one, they respectfully greeted her when they left the school. However, every time this group of junior girls looked at Han Dong, they would immediately feel the killing intent from Mia. Even if this group of apprentice witches recognized Han Dong's identity, they could only bow their heads and leave quickly. At this time, the witch's voice suddenly sounded. Mia, what are you doing here? Is everything okay with the Knights of Misfortune? This kid is also here. Greetings, Teacher Kaluna. Han Dong bowed his head respectfully and greeted the witch who was wearing a black silk robe. You obtained 2 talent points in one go. Mr. Black and White really recruited a good student. What are you here for? The Great Plague Elder isn't here today. If there's nothing else, leave quickly. Teacher, Nicholas, Mia wanted to explain, but she was immediately stopped by Han Dong, who directly stated his purpose. During this trip of fate, I accidentally obtained an ancient witchcraft that originated from a small Nordic island. I think it will be very helpful for Mia. However, this witchcraft also has a certain backlash effect on the individual. So I wanted to take a look at it first and see if this witchcraft is suitable for Mia. A small Nordic island? Let me take a look. With the witch's permission. Han Dong looked at the witch through his magic eye and directly transmitted the ancient witchcraft knowledge that came from Miss Jane. The secret sect of 3 witches. The secret path. Kid, where did you get this from? Impossible. How could you bring out such a high-level witchcraft secret text from the space of fate? Material transfer between worlds requires a price, which is fate points. Although these witchcraft secret texts are far from explaining the route to the secret kingdom, it is enough to open the door. The witch widened her eyes and could not believe that Han Dong could bring out such a valuable witchcraft secret text and even give it to Mia. Chapter 721. The Hidden Path. Han Dong had indeed seen a similar term in Miss Jane's illustrated handbook, Hidden Kingdom. But any target killed by Miss Jane's second ritual would have their soul fall into the Hidden Kingdom, never to be reincarnated. Listening to the witch's explanation, Han Dong was rather puzzled. The material circulation in the Destiny realm was absolutely restricted. Any material, whether it was tangible or illusory knowledge, would require a corresponding price to be paid to allow the transfer between worlds. Could it be related to intimacy? When the intimacy reaches a certain level, it allows me to obtain gifts from NPCs, thus not needing to pay the price of transferring between worlds. There's a possibility. After all, the intimacy between Miss Jane and I had reached a level far beyond friendly in the last period of time we spent together. Thinking about it, Han Dong felt that it was a pity. However, bringing Miss Jane over now might be useful, but it would only increase Miss Jane's personal risk. It was better to let her stay in Draytown. Just as Han Dong was thinking, Mia at the side also understood the value of this gift. This was an ancient witchcraft that involved the hidden path. To think that Han Dong would actually bring her something like this in the extremely dangerous Destiny realm. Mia was also filled with gratitude. She immediately took a step forward and hugged Han Dong tightly from behind. However, Han Dong's attention was on the witch. Teacher Kylonia, according to Mia's uniqueness, she should be able to learn this ancient witchcraft, right? If she can learn this second ritual, her attack power will also be greatly increased, adding an insurance to the journey of Destiny Realm. The witch seemed to have seen through Han Dong's scheme. What do you want Mia to do? Nothing. If Mia will also participate in the upcoming Great Expedition, this witchcraft ability will also increase her chances of survival. After all, we are a small team. How could the Great Expedition be so easy? With that said, the witch pointed to the upper part of the witch school. You can have the witchcraft secret room on the second floor of the school. Tonight, you'll be conducting the witchcraft secret text. Don't practice for the time being. Yes, the so-called witchcraft secret room was a wooden house with a large number of witchcraft tools and magic circles drawn on it. It was twice as big as Mia's private treehouse. The eyeball of a toad, the tail of a black cat, the wings of a bat, and so on. He created a special room where the witches could practice their secret spells. Han Dong directly used the most direct and simple method of transmitting information. Splat! A tentacle entered Mia's brain region from the back of her head, directly transmitting the ancient witchcraft. Drieg's evil eye illusion, Bismai's bind, corpse control, Solar's ritual damage. Regardless of whether it was the witch's reminder or Han Dong's personal feelings, it would be best if Mia didn't learn all three arts like Miss Jane did. It would be best if she could specialize in one of them. He decisively chose Solar's ritual. One ritual, a small short blade with witchcraft fire formed in Mia's body, like a stone dagger in a primitive tribe. Solar's ritual was directly engraved on the surface of her internal organs. The process caused Mia to scream crazily in pain. It wasn't just physical pain. Witchcraft fire could deeply burn the soul. Even if the pain nerves were cut off, it would still be useless. The pain would still be maximized. The core purpose of such a ritual engraving in the body was to establish a connection between Mia and the secret kingdom, and officially lead her on the path of secrecy. Hiss! Hiss! The excessive pain directly caused Mia to lose her mind. The insect transformation characteristic was activated. 8 long spider legs grew out of her back and crazily attacked the surrounding area. Bind! Han Dong moved his right hand. He directly grew 8 tentacles that didn't have the effect of pollution and forcibly suppressed Mia's spider legs. At the same time, he hugged Mia and whispered in Mia's ear through the whisper of the hybrid demon. Pull through, I'm by your side. The whisper was several times more effective than a tranquilizer. It slowly released Mia from her state of losing control. Han Dong was currently a second-rank knight. Especially with the strengthening of his tentacles and the upgrade of his brain, his strength had far surpassed her when she participated in the night conference. Mia had yet to pass true fate. The difference in strength between the two was still very obvious. Slowly, the first step of the one ritual engraving was completed. To achieve Miss Jane's second ritual required more effort and pain. On the basis of completely perfecting the first ritual, the second ritual was engraved according to her body's condition. After this torment, Mia's body was weak and couldn't achieve the two people's night that she imagined in her mind. Okay, Mia, you should have good rest. Use this state to meditate. If I'm not wrong, Solar's ritual witchcraft should be able to be added to your bewitching blade. It will increase your attack power by 1 level. After a few days, you will go to the Destiny Realm with Abel and the others. Under the condition that you pass the basic level, you should try to get the most out of it. A night passed. Han Dong saw the opportunity and sent a message to the other members of the team. He wanted to be the middleman for everyone to reunite. Let Abel, Cass, Wenli, and Mia form a team to face the first true fate together. In Han Dong's view, Demps could definitely replace his position as the military advisor and find the life gate in true fate. As for the gathering of his companions, Han Dong also planned to wait until everyone came out from the Destiny Realm. Only when they were on the same level and there was no burden in their hearts, everyone could talk freely. In front of the clock tower, after going through a period of night training, his former companions had changed a lot. Abel was mature, Wenli was steady, and Dimpus was even more unfathomable. The Destiny event would be randomly given by the matching system according to the overall level of the team. The overall time taken was a few days longer than Han Dong's. The 24 days of Destiny journey was smoothly completed with Dimps's arrangement and Abel's leading charge. Under the condition that all members were alive, the small to medium Destiny event Home of Corpses was completed and the reward of the best team was obtained. Of course, the 4 members of the team only received 1 talent point. At the same time, the corresponding development system was also given. Abel's talent tree had 2 growth systems, Dragon Clan and Desolate Beast. Mia's talent tree also had 2 growth systems, one of which was closely related to Han Dong, Curse of Wormheart and Path of Secrets. Wen Li's little sister also had 2 growth systems, one of which was closely related to her identity as a blacksmith, Divine Craftsman Hall. The other was related to Wen Li's mysterious birth, Infinite Strength. The only difference was Demps. Like Han Dong, Demps had 3 growth systems, one of which was very interesting. Chapter 722. Due to the opening of Hades' Step, the Holy City's underground city, had become the main entertainment place for the upper class and the knights. After all, in the underground city, many restrictions from the Holy City would no longer exist. Enjoying this short period of freedom could bring an efficient release of pressure and reduce the possibility of self-degradation. Han Dong also decided to have his long-awaited gathering in the underground city. Of course, the one who paid was still Demps. Han Dong originally wanted to invite Diana, but after considering Mia's point, he decided not to do so to avoid trouble. As for the situation with the investor, it would take some time before they could discuss it face-to-face. Because the rules and regulations of the Great Expedition were about to be announced, the investor had been cooperating with the Parliament to carry out intensive work. As the organizer of this gathering, Han Dong came to the underground city in advance. Soon, he stopped in front of a high-end bar called Medusa's Eye. The basic scale of the bar was even larger than many hotels. In the underground city, where the scale of buildings was limited, it actually had a height of 4 floors and occupied a relatively large area. In front of the door, there were 2 beautiful Medusas with green snake hair. They were the hostesses of the bar. Obviously, the boss spent points to bring them out of the Destiny realm. This bar is a bit interesting. Anyway, Dimps is paying for it. Let's just make it here. Han Dong disguised himself as a commoner with a commoner's appearance and height. At the same time, he placed the rank 2 knight's waist tag in a more conspicuous position. Then, Han Dong had the intention to enter the bar. One of the Medusas immediately approached him. The slippery green snake growing on her head floated on Han Dong's cheek. Her behavior was also slightly ambiguous. Obviously, this bar provided other special activities in addition to the normal drink service. Sir Knight, do you have a reservation in advance? I'm sorry. Our bar has a rule. In order to ensure the quality of service and not affect each other, we only receive customers who have made a reservation in advance. At this moment, another customer appeared behind Han Dong and handed Miss Medusa a black card with dark gold edges, symbolizing the highest level of membership in this bar. Are there any extra small private rooms? The newcomer was none other than Brother Demps. Although there was still an hour left before the scheduled gathering, Dimpus had come to the underground city in advance. He had originally planned to buy some magic crystals from the black market. Unexpectedly, when Dimps passed by the street, he accidentally saw Han Dong at the entrance of the bar. Dear VIP, we don't have many customers today, but we do have a small private room. Please follow me. This was the difference in status. Han Dong's knight waist tag was completely useless. Nicholas, you really know how to choose a place. This bar has a high status in the dungeon, and the lady boss is directly taken care of by the night watchers. The privacy of the customers is also protected by the highest standards. Of course, they also provide a lot of in-depth services, but I don't think you need them. Indeed, I don't need them. Since the privacy and quality are good, let's settle here. Anyway, Demps, you're treating. No problem. After not seeing each other for a while, Demp still looked the same. A typical British-style young man, monocle, small top hat, and a silver-plated black wooden cane. You going first? I still have to buy some crystals. Recently, I've been working beside the great demon leader, and my body is almost emptied every day. As he spoke, Demps pretended to be quite tired, lowered the brim of his hat, and walked towards the black market. Demps, this guy, seems to have more secrets. Today, I have to take the opportunity to get the talent ability from Demps. After rejecting Miss Medusa's special service, Han Dong sent the location information to his friends. His friends who he hadn't seen for months came one after another. Demps, who came to the dungeon early, was the last. He arrived at the private room area, and a protruding black crystal blood vessel on his neck slowly disappeared. It seemed that he had just finished replenishing his energy. After a special dungeon delicacy and a special Medusa's snake wine, everyone opened their hearts and talked freely. After all, the real fate had passed, and the pressure in everyone's heart had been completely poured out. Abel, have you grown up a little? The growth here wasn't about age, but the expansion of the overall body. Abel, who was originally 8 meters tall, was now 95 meters tall, and his body was also relatively bigger. There was a tendency to develop into the behemoth leader. His fluffy white hair didn't change, but there were some more obvious dragon scale patterns. It's a matter of physique. Moreover, my first talent is coincidentally allocated to the Dragon Clan, and it does make me look a little bigger. Dragon Clan? Han Dong immediately showed a look of interest and took the opportunity to change the topic to their respective growth systems. Abel completely treated his friends and the party as his family, and there was nothing to hide. My talent tree has 2 development paths. Dragon Clan comes from the hybrid demons that I absorbed. The other, Desolate Beast, is related to the thing in my body. At this moment, Han Dong clinked glasses with his friends again and used the atmosphere to cut to the chase. How about this? Everyone talk about the talents that you have chosen. As he got drunk, Abel's nature was immediately revealed. His thick arms rested on Han Dong's shoulders, and the fluffy ears in his white hair jumped out, expressing his absolute approval of Han Dong's suggestion. No problem, it wasn't easy to pass the real fate. Regarding talents, let's make it the main topic of this gathering. I heard that you, Nicholas, obtained 2 talent points in one go. Is that true? Then you'll have to speak first this time. All right, I'll be first, Abel will be second. Let's continue like this. Han Dong immediately told everyone about the effects of his first talent, Dark Knowledge. This passive ability to increase one's reading ability and learning efficiency was a late-stage talent. It immediately attracted the interest of Demps and even made him a little envious. Abel, it's your turn. This is amazing. This is a choice that I made after thinking for a long time. As he spoke, thick blood vessels appeared on Abel's body. His body weight, muscles, and skin structure were all undergoing minute changes. His white hair also grew by more than 10 centimeters. His eyes slowly revealed a pale yellow color, and his pupils slowly turned into vertical strips, forming a type of dragon's eyes. Dragon Clan, first level, Dragon Blood Warrior. In a certain corner of the dragon world, there lives a group of human tribes with dragon blood flowing in their veins. They have the intelligence of humans and the body of a dragon. Innate effect, Dragon Clan gene level +1 strength, defense, maximum HP, and HP recovery speed are all increased. This innate ability can be upgraded according to the level of dragonization and the quality of dragon blood. The direction of hybrid demonization will also change, focusing on dragonization. So strong. Han Dong did not expect that the little bit of dragon blood in Count's pet would become an important growth path for Abel in the future. However, to be able to give birth to the Dragon Clan system, Abel himself could not be separated. Normal people would not be able to control dragons. Chapter 723. Abel, did Commander Kai Meng allow you to develop in this direction? Just when everyone felt that Abel's talent was quite powerful, Dimps adjusted his copper-rimmed glasses and threw out such a strange question. It seemed that the dragon race was involved in some unknown secret of the sacred city. As soon as this matter was mentioned, Abel's drunkenness immediately subsided. Grandpa's initial attitude was indeed against it. After all, he wanted to develop me into the successor of the Behemoth Knights. Dimps added, according to your talent and the dragon blood flowing in your body, there's a high possibility that you will be recruited into the Imperial Guard in the future. Dimps suddenly threw out a term that Han Dong had never heard of in his words. Mia, who was leaning against Han Dong, was also shocked and quickly asked, Imperial Guard? The legendary Dragon Knight? Dimps nodded affirmatively. That's right, the Imperial Guard does exist. Abel, you have to think about it carefully. After all, the Imperial Guard is related to the royal family and the Parliament. Once you are selected, you will not be able to take over the Behemoth Knights from Commander Kai Meng. It may be good for you, but it may also be bad for you. Yes. Abel's eyes were very firm, as if he had already made his choice. When it was the next person's turn according to the order, Mia suddenly raised her hand and cut in line, as she could not wait to share her awakened talent. My system also has too, as she spoke. A kind of white flame that was both real and virtual burned in Mia's eyes. As Mia opened her arms, this kind of which fire also burned between her arms. It would not hurt Mia, but it would bring a sense of danger to the people present. The Hidden Road, Level 1, soars which fire. The road to the Hidden Kingdom is full of unknown darkness. Those who unintentionally step on this road or try to spy on this road will be swallowed by the darkness. Only with the help of soars which fire can the unknown darkness be dispelled. Talent effect grants the hidden witchcraft, soars which fire as an additional attribute. Wizard fire could be attached to any form of attack. When attacking, it can cause damage to the soul. The damage to the soul is 10% of the actual damage caused by the attack. Any ability that involves the soul is classified as a high-level ability. When Lee's younger sister widened her eyes, Sister Mia is so awesome. Armor that provided high physical or magical defense was easy to make. However, if you want to create equipment with soul defense, you need specific soul materials. Moreover, the overall smelting and forging details must be refined. Not bad. Han Dong also gave a simple evaluation. This result was exactly what Han Dong wanted Mia to achieve, to increase her attack power to become a sharp spear in the team. Mia retracted the wizard fire into her body. Next up was Blacksmith Wen Li. The talent tree's positioning was still very accurate. It gave Wen Li's younger sister a path of blacksmithing and a path of pure strength. The talents of both paths were very attractive. Divine Craftsman Hall, Level 1, Skill Upgrade. Forging Level +1 can increase the success rate and speed of forging high-level equipment, reduce the consumption of materials, and has a small probability of forging equipment of a higher level than the materials used. Infinite Strength, Level 1, Praise of Hercules. Base strength plus 10%. The limit of strength on the individual is weakened. Every time you defeat a hybrid demon in physical form, there's a certain probability of obtaining a permanent increase in strength, +1 strength. Due to joining the Hell Knights, Wen Li finally chose the pursuit of extreme destructive power. Moreover, the increase in strength could indirectly increase the success rate of forging to a certain extent. Dimps pushed his glasses and sighed softly. The effect of touching the limit problem, the power of God? Wen Li's strength was already very terrifying. With the blessing of such a talent, Wen Li completely turned into a muscle monster. Mia suggested on a whim, Sister Wen Li is so awesome. Speaking of which, Captain Abel's Dragon Clan also has a lot of strength. Do you want to compete in arm wrestling? Sure. Abel was also drunk and immediately agreed. But Han Dong faintly saw the word danger above Abel's head, however. The arm wrestling had to wait until the first round of truth was over. Finally, it was Demps's turn to talk about his own talent tree system. This was also the point that Han Dong was most concerned about. Demps first smiled awkwardly as if he was a little embarrassed to talk about his relatively weak talent. Because of the great demon captain's request, I put my talent points into a talent related to the demon dwellers, called Nightmare Path Pursuer. It increases the efficiency of sensing, absorbing, and using magic essence. It can extend the time of hybrid demon transformation. It is similar to Abel's talent. In the future, my hybrid demon transformation will also lean towards the direction of the demon dwellers. Demps skipped the 3 systems of his own talent tree and directly talked about the first layer of talent. Compared to the other people's powerful innate talents, Dempus's Nightmare Path Pursuers gave off a feeling of weakness. However, compared to Han Dong's pure reading Nightmare Path Pursuer, the Dark Knowledge Nightmare Path seemed to be slightly stronger. Hearing this, Han Dong also realized a problem. He thought, everyone's hybrid demon transformation will be induced by the talent tree and will be biased towards their own attributes. For example, Diana's bones, Abel's dragon, and Dempsey's demon dwellers. It seems that very few people like me directly using the most original hybrid demon energy. Nicholas, what is your second layer? The exchange of information is also equivalent. For the second layer of talent, I choose to keep it a secret for the time being. When everyone carries out the mission together, you will naturally know. Han Dong and Demps looked at each other and smiled, immediately feeling like they were close friends. Next was the second activity of the party. The wine glasses on the table had been emptied. Come, Abel, who was drunk, fully activated the dragon blood in his body, and at the same time, secretly used the power from the beasts. The right arm on the table immediately protruded with a large number of hardened dragon scales, and the surface was still covered with a layer of fluffy, white beast hair. The muscle tissue had reached twice the size of before. Traces of dragon aura appeared on the surface of the body. The dragon eyes had been formed. He stared at Wenli opposite him with a strong fighting spirit. Come, because of Wenli's personality, she was still a little timid in such a situation. He slowly stretched out his strong right arm and held the palm of his hand. The referee of this arm wrestling match was handed over to Han Dong, who had the magic eye, to ensure absolute fairness. Relax first. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start. Following Han Dong's order. In the underground city, a loud noise came from the bar called Medusa's Eye. In the public area on the first floor, a guest who was holding a young lady was directly knocked unconscious. There was a hole in the ceiling made of obsidian. Abel, whose whole body was covered with dragon scales, fell in the ruins of the first floor. His arm was dislocated, and his body was pressing down on the completely unconscious guest. In the private room on the second floor, when Lee's mind was blank, and she kept bowing and apologizing. Chapter 724. At the summit of the holy city, Mount Olympus. At the same time, that was when Han Dong cleared True Fate for the first time, and when the team members completed the first level of talent allocation. During this time, the Holy City had been formulating a plan called the Eve of the Expedition. The participants and their important functions included 1. Members of the Core Council, including prophets, judges, and judges, decide the overall progress of the Great Expedition and formulate special expeditionary force laws. 2. Head of the Steam Knights and General Manager of the Holy City Chamber of Commerce. Sponsor, Gary G. Travix, Deputy Head of the Steam Knights and Great Mechanical High Priest of the Machinery Church, Congreve Newton III. Provide core steam technology that will be used in the Great Expedition, such as core power sources, transportation vehicles, material transmission, firepower support, and so on. 3. Pope's spokesperson, Bishop Garth Mona, Cardinal, Holy Lady of the Holy See and Head of the Holy Knights, Olivia Christian IV. Provide spiritual supervision, faith activities, purification rituals that cover the entire Great Expedition, as well as the planned mobile church that needs to be built together with the Blacksmith Association and the Steam Knights. This project is the core of whether the Great Expedition can proceed smoothly. 4. General Victor Adams, Grand Secretary of the Royal Guard, and Grand Secretary Moselian V, represent the royal family to decide the defensive measures of the Holy City during the Great Expedition, the addition of defensive projects, and other matters related to the safety of the Holy City. 5. The head and deputy head of the other 13 knights, and the president of the Medium-Large Association, not participating in the entire process. 6. Decide the system, structure, and personnel selection of the expeditionary force, various technical support for the expedition, talent support, and participation in major decisions. The total duration of the meeting had reached 15 days and 12 hours. Because a certain problem had not been resolved, the final decision could not be completed. The meeting was currently in a temporary state. At the same time, Holy City, second level, at the end of the hidden street. The secret library, the headquarters of the Secret Word Knights. Even though the secret library and the 6 streets around it were in a space envelope state, due to the deciphering of a certain top-secret slate, an uncontrollable space opening was torn open. Suddenly, an indescribable hybrid demon aura gushed out from the secret library. A large amount of hybrid demon aura that originated from outside the city was constantly gushing out of the secret library's various cracks and rapidly spreading out into the streets. On the empty streets, the hybrid demon aura spread directly caused the various plants by the roadside to grow countless suction cups. The branches turned into tentacles, twisting wildly in the air. Of course, the knights had already taken this situation into consideration. They had already evacuated all the residents from the nearby streets and replaced them with holy fathers, combat nuns, or purifiers from the holy knights. He could feel the aura of the hybrid demons spreading. They immediately reinforced the divine protection barrier, sealing the contamination in a certain area of space. Some of the less experienced clerics were even frightened by such a scene. The polluted aura that seeped out from the secret museum was enough to corrupt thousands of people in an instant. What was the interior of the secret museum like? Could it be that all the knights of the Secret Word's knights had fallen? The person in charge of the purifiers immediately reported the situation to Commander Olivia, who was in the middle of a meeting. However, the instructions they received from the leader were very simple. They only needed to be responsible for their own enchantments and prevent the contamination from leaking out. About an hour passed. The pollution from the secret museum had filled the entire street and was about to reach the critical defense value of the barrier. Just as the purifiers were about to use the local churches on the second level to further strengthen the barrier, a voice suddenly rang out. The main door of the secret museum was suddenly pushed open. A relatively lazy figure slowly walked out from the inside. He had a strange stench all over his body, as if he was a homeless person who had been rolling around in a trash can for days. His messy brown hair was already in knots, and his clothes were also stained with a large amount of stinky mucus. A few strange eyeballs hung between the red and green mucus. It seemed that Hugo had just killed all the foreign hybrid demons that had been sent into the secret museum by deciphering the slate. When he came outside, Commander Hugo immediately took a deep breath. For a moment, all the polluted aura seeping out of the secret museum was sucked into Commander Hugo's body. The polluted street immediately returned to its normal state, and even the plants grew green leaves again. As for Commander Hugo, there was basically no change except for the fact that he had become even more stinky. The purifiers guarding outside the barrier stared at this scene and were so scared that they could not speak. However, they also knew that Commander Hugo had a rare pollution immunity physique that only appeared once in 100 years. Tell Olivia that the slate of the old king has been deciphered. Wait for me to take a shower, and then I will come to the meeting. Hugo personally brought the deciphered slate to the meeting hall. When he arrived, all the commanders of the Knight Order were already present. As Hugo displayed the contents of the slate, the people in charge of the great expedition all had different expressions on their faces. They immediately entered the final stage of the meeting. After another 2 days and 2 nights, the matters related to the great expedition were completely finalized. Tomorrow, matters related to the eve of the great expedition would be announced to the entire city. The most important period in human history was about to arrive. The scene switched to Han Dong's side. Due to Wen Li and Abel's arm wrestling, the Medusa's eye bar was severely damaged, causing a noble to be seriously injured. At first, it was immediately determined to be a malicious incident. This caused the night watchers patrolling nearby to clean up the scene. This forced Han Dong and the others to reveal their identities. Together with Demp's status as a VIP in the bar, as well as compensating for the losses on the spot, this matter was finally settled with great difficulty. However, Wen Li's monstrous power was far beyond Han Dong's imagination. Such monstrous power could directly solve some problems. Of course, Abel also fell into a short period of isolation. Just as the group returned to the private room and continued the long-awaited gathering between the teams, the Magic Circle broadcast equipment in the bar was suddenly activated. Not only that, but all the broadcast equipment in the streets and alleys were also activated. The broadcast of the entire Holy City was connected to a certain point. There was an important announcement about to be made. From behind the broadcast came the majestic voice of the Holy City's barrier, Grand Knight, Roland Lion King's pride. Just a few words were enough to inspire people. The Supreme Council, the Grand Knight Order, the Royal Family, and the Supreme Church have decided. Will be in Evernight Era 291. The Great Expedition will be fully launched. Now, the Holy City will enter the state of preparation for the expedition. Next, I, Roland Lion King's pride, will announce the rules and regulations of the eve of the Great Expedition. Chapter 725. So fast. The group of people in the bar thought that the preparation for the eve of the expedition would take more than a month. They didn't expect it to be confirmed so quickly. The moment they heard the three words Great Expedition, Abel, who was originally in a state of depression, immediately perked up and listened carefully to Grand Knight Roland's following speech. Of course, not only Han Dong and his group. During Grand Knight Roland's speech, all activities in the Holy City stopped. The eve of the expedition would last for a whole year. The basic preparations included the construction of defensive facilities in the city, a large increase in taxes, the forced labor of apprentice knights, and so on. However, these were not what Han Dong cared about. The accumulation of various materials was left to the people in the Holy City. Han Dong was most concerned about how to get into the expeditionary army. This point was quickly discussed by Grand Knight Roland. The eve of the expedition. Qualification examination for the Expeditionary Army. The minimum requirement to get into the Expeditionary Army. Level 1 Knight. The qualification examination for the Expeditionary Army will cover the first half of the year before the expedition and is divided into a total of 3 stages. 1. Accumulating points. The Parliament has issued a new set of rules for the Knights' points. Based on the performance of the Knights in the past, before the expedition, a basic score, no more than 30 points, will be given to the individual Knights. The score can be directly checked through the clockwork device. You will have 2 months to obtain points from various channels. The channels include investigation missions, bounty missions, manufacturing missions, and so on. Those who perform well in various fields will be able to obtain points. For specific details, please inquire within the Knight Corps. After 2 months, the Knights who have accumulated more than 60 points will be able to enter the next round of qualification examination. 2. Will and courage. Having a strong individual ability doesn't mean that you can complete the epic journey of the Great Expedition. Moving forward for a long time in the eternal night environment, every breath means one step closer to the abyss of depravity. Those with weak will accelerate their own depravity with the passage of time. We will complete the consciousness examination of all the selected Knights in 1 month. The specific examination method will be announced at that time. 3. Heart of the Legion. The Knights who pass the first and second round of examination are qualified to join the Expeditionary Army. In the 3rd round, we will assign the selected Knights to different legions according to their individual characteristics. The Great Expedition is an important step in the history of human beings. It will also be the first real step for human beings to seize freedom and sovereignty. Any knight who participates in the great expedition will receive the highest honor. Our names will go down in history. Our courage will live on. We will return victorious. The above was the basic process of being selected into the expeditionary army. It was basically the same as what Mr. Black and White and Commander Coden had said. They could earn expeditionary army points through various channels. Once they reached the basic standard of expeditionary army members, they would pass the first round. The announcement on the eve of the expedition ended. The clockwork devices on the wrists of Han Dong and the others all received the message at the same time. The basic message had arrived. Everyone had just cleared true fate a few days ago and became Grade 1 knights. They had met the minimum level requirement to participate in the great expedition, so they probably wouldn't have many basic points. Abel Lane, basic points, description, Knight selection, top 10, +2, Night Watcher, +1, Dragon Attribute, +3, core member of the Behemoth Knights, +1, Hybrid Demon Spawn, rare, +4. Mia Simonovic, basic points 5, description, Knight selection, top 10, +2, Herbalism Mastery, +3. Winley Austin, basic points 7, description, Knight selection, top 10, +2, Blacksmith Mastery, +3, Inhuman Strength, +2. Demps Martin, basic points 16, description, Knight selection, top 10, +2, All-Round Magic, rare, +5. Hybrid Demon Spawn, +4. National Royal Knight Academy, outstanding young teacher and director of the Magic Association, +2. Secondary member of the Great Betrayer Incident, +3. Warren Nicholas, basic points 30 max. Description, Night Watcher, +1. Knight selection, champion, rare, +5. Mature, Hybrid Demon Spawn, unique, +10. Dual Cultivator Spawn, rare, +5. Immune to pollution, extremely rare, +10. Core member of the Great Betrayer Incident, +5. The gap between people was just that big. Han Dong, who had cleared true fate less than a month ago, had already obtained a great expedition's basic points. This time, it was Mia who had the lowest basic points, who fell into an autistic state. It would be very difficult to obtain points in the future. If Mia didn't work hard, it was very likely that she wouldn't be able to join the expedition. However, there was still a fundamental question that needed to be answered. That was, were the members of the team willing to participate in the great expedition? This was the most crucial point. Once they participated in the great expedition, it would take years or even decades. The stability provided by the Holy City would no longer exist. The members of the team had just become knights and were in their early 20s. They still had a lot of opportunities for development. Even the officials of the Holy City didn't encourage such young knights to participate. They were the future pillars of the Holy City. What are your thoughts on the great expedition? After Han Dong's question, the room became silent. Demps, who was leaning against the corner, suggested, "Vice Captain, tell us your thoughts first. You cleared true fate in advance. Mr. Black and White should have told you something. I believe you already have an answer in your heart. Tell us. It'll be easier for everyone to make a decision." Han Dong nodded. "I personally want to join the great expedition." Mr. Black and White also agrees. At this time, Abel spoke. "Grandfather has reserved his opinion on my participation in the great expedition for now. However, if the Crow Prophet wants you to participate, Grandfather should let me participate as well." Then Mia, who was leaning against Han Dong, said softly, "I'll definitely follow my dear. Anyway, the Knights of Misfortune doesn't have any special requirements for me. Vice Captain Archimedes is quite easy to talk to." Winley seemed to still be feeling guilty about the arm wrestling incident. She spoke softly, "I'm not very sure. However, I heard from the Knights of Misfortune that Captain Malone will lead all the qualified members of the Knights of Misfortune to participate in the great expedition. I also want to participate with everyone. Captain Malone will definitely be a core member of the great expedition. In addition, the offensive strength of the Knights of Misfortune is an indispensable part of the great expedition. Winley, as long as you want to participate, it won't be a problem." That's good. I'll try my best to pass the selection. Winley nodded. In the end, Dempsey's answer was very simple. I'm fine with it. You can participate or not. Chapter 726. Everyone in the team agreed. Moreover, Han Dong had learned about the ultimate goal of the expedition from Mr. Black and White, which was to kill the old king. It was not to kill all the old kings, but to kill an old king whose intelligence was known and whose rank was not high. In other words, the great expedition was not a free-for-all battle against the hybrid demons outside the city. It was just an expedition that spanned a large distance and was of great significance. It was indeed very difficult, and it was also the first time humans had to leave the main city for a long time. However, Han Dong did not have to protect all the knights. At the very least, he could use the moving land deed to protect his team members when danger came. Moreover, from a long-term perspective, Abel, Dimps, Mia, and Winnie were the best batch of new knights in recent years. If they could get such experience in the early stages of the knights, they would definitely grow into the core pillars of the human race in the future. Seeing that everyone in the team had reached a consensus, Han Dong immediately gave a message that could eliminate some of their worries about the expedition and allow them to focus on the qualification review. If we participate in the expedition as a team, we can also take care of each other to a certain extent. Even if we really encounter some unpredictable danger that causes the expeditionary army to be seriously disrupted, I have a place that can accommodate everyone and provide absolute safety. I still have some secrets outside the city. When I have time, I will go out of the city and show everyone. Dimps, who had been to the Scarlet Manor, naturally understood what Han Dong meant by place. At this moment, Mia felt a sense of urgency and immediately hugged Han Dong's arm. Nicholas, my basic score is only 5. Is there any way to help me earn points quickly? If I can't reach the bottom line of 60 points in 2 months, I won't be able to go on the expedition with everyone. It would not be easy to obtain points. Mia's basic score was the lowest. It was the right choice to hug Han Dong's thigh as soon as possible. Mia, didn't you join the Herbal Association in the Holy City? If you start from your personal mastery, you might be able to get a lot of points. Mia, however, had an unwilling look on her face. It's not very reliable. It's impossible to get a lot of points by grinding herbs. Nicholas, why don't you take us to complete a few special, high-difficulty missions? Didn't we just invest talent points and obtain a brand new ability? Before the arrival of the Great Expedition, it's best for everyone to familiarize themselves with each other through actual combat. Don't you think so? Mia was right. Due to the broken seed and the brand new talent system, the fighting style of his companions had also changed. It was necessary for them to get used to each other in advance. However, Leader Coden still asked him to bring Diana to complete some of the Night Watchman's missions. Now, they had no choice but to stagger. Han Dong nodded. All right, let's go to the Adventurers Guild later and see if there are any special bounty missions. Dimps pushed up his glasses and gave a different opinion. Although there are some difficult missions in the bounty mission, there are very few of them. The really difficult missions are basically arranged in the investigation mission that requires us to leave the city. Of course, Leader Roland has given the rules for the eve of the Great Expedition. Many knights who want to join the expedition should be rushing to the knight headquarters now. Investigation mission. That's right. Let's go quickly. Han Dong had forgotten about this. After hearing Demps mention it, the team immediately stopped the gathering and headed to the surface of the Holy City. When they left the Eye of Medusa bar, the number of knights who were wandering around the underground city to enjoy themselves and relax decreased by more than half. The entire Holy City had entered a state of preparation for war after Grand Knight Roland's speech. Investigation mission. It was one of the main duties of an official knight. According to the requirements set by the Parliament, there would be an annual qualification review of the knights. This included the completion of the investigation mission. For those knights who did not participate in the investigation mission, the Parliament would personally intervene and remove their knight status in most cases. The investigation mission itself usually required the knights to leave the city in the form of a small team and perform danger elimination on a certain area around the holy city, less than 100 kilometers. It was not randomly given a large area for the knights to investigate. There was a definite basis for the investigation area that might have potential dangers. Often, special riders in the Riders Association would detect abnormalities in a certain area outside the city in advance through their dream foresight, which required the night team to investigate in person. There was no guarantee 100%, but at least 60% of the areas given by the riders had potential dangers. Or a new hybrid demon was born. Or a portal connected to the distant hybrid demon was opened. Or a large number of pagans had a mysterious gathering in the area, trying to summon the hybrid demon, and so on. Foresight, investigation, and elimination in advance. This was one of the main reasons why the Holy City was stable all year round. It was also why riders had a high status in the Holy City. Why was it that even a great prophet like Mr. Black and White could not take any targeted measures when it involved the president of the Riders Association back then without definite evidence? It was because this person's position was extremely high and difficult to shake. In addition, because the investigation mission involved potential threats from outside the city, the rider's mind sometimes could only glimpse a part of the danger, and the real risk was often difficult to assess. Once the danger was successfully eliminated, the night team would receive a reward that was much higher than the reward for the mission in the city. Of course, the risk mentioned above was only limited to the ordinary knights in the city. For a lord like Han Dong, who also had his own manor outside the city, the investigation mission might be easier than the reward mission in the city. When Han Dong and the others rented an expensive steam carriage and rushed to the knight headquarters, as expected, there was already a long queue outside the gate with the two swords and white horse emblem. The knights, who dedicated themselves to the cause of human freedom, could not wait to earn points and pass the first round of qualification review to put themselves into the epic Great Expedition. They used the blades in their hands to cut off the heads of the hybrid demons and used the courage in their hearts to disperse the whispers of the hybrid demons. Judging from this scene alone, the Holy City's training of knights and instilling of the spirit of chivalry was indeed quite successful. However, this was not good for Han Dong and the others who had been delayed for some time. Looking at the long line, Han Dong reckoned that there would not be many investigation missions for them to take on by the time it was their turn. Speaking of which, the Holy City should have expected such a situation of large-scale mission acceptance, right? Why not set up some agencies to accept missions? Just when Han Dong threw out this question, the Knight headquarters, which was originally an office building, suddenly opened the door on the ground floor to the outside. The broadcast in the area was also turned on at the same time. For the brave knights who actively participate in the Great Expedition, after the Council's discussion, the Knight headquarters will provide the regular investigation mission, as well as the investigation mission on a trial basis. That is, the investigation mission whose destination is more than 100 kilometers away from the Holy City. You can go to the Knight headquarters, building number 3, to accept the relevant mission. Please note that the difficulty of the investigation mission far is high. Only the gold, level, and above Knight teams are allowed to accept it. Once completed, you will receive a high reward and the Great Expedition points. Chapter 727. When the trial run of Investigation Mission Distant appeared, the knights in the queue immediately discussed it. About 5 minutes later, a few teams of knights went to the annex building. But these knights also had the idea of taking a look first and did not necessarily accept it. It was not about how difficult the investigation mission itself was. It was just a matter of distance. The area with a radius of less than 100 kilometers around the Holy City was also known as the sub-safe zone. This area was shrouded by the senses of prophets and writers all year round. Frequent night activities, mainly investigations, secondary training, were carried out. It was within a controllable range. The danger was generally not higher than the critical value, and it would never trigger a chain event. However, more than 100 kilometers was beyond the sensing range of most prophets and writers. Because the area had not been cleared for a long time, only a few expedition activities have been carried out. Carrying out investigations in these distant areas may encounter some unpredictable dangers, and it may also trigger a chain event of hybrid demons. For example, just killing an ordinary hybrid demon at the investigation site caused a large number of hybrid demons lurking in the nearby area to appear and completely surround the team. Of course, since the Holy City launched a long-distance investigation mission at this time, they must have their own plans. It was impossible to deliberately put the knights in danger and deliberately reduce their combat power before the expedition. The so-called investigation mission, distant, must have some protective measures. At the same time, it was also an effective way to test whether the knights had the characteristics of an expedition. However, for Han Dong, it was the same whether it was far or near. Han Dong once took Demp's mother's wooden house and went to the magic Crystal Canyon hundreds of kilometers away. It didn't matter whether it was far or near, as long as he could receive the investigation mission. Gold level. Are there different levels in the night team? Han Dong was a little confused. It seemed that his team was not qualified to receive the investigation mission distant. As soon as Han Dong became a knight, he closed himself in the secret library for a period of time and then set off for the Destiny space. He basically did not know about this. Abel, who had been receiving training in the Behemoth Knights, answered, "Yes, the Holy City advocates that knights carry out various tasks in the form of squads. Friendship and bonds between companions are also a way to resist the whispers of the hybrid demons and improve the willpower. For newly promoted knights like us, once we confirm our squad, we need to go to the knight headquarters to register. Every time they completed a mission as a party, the party could accumulate experience points and reach a higher level. Each person could join up to 3 squads. Party EXP accumulation would only take effect when more than 60% of the party members were on a mission together. As the level of the team increased, there were more investigation missions to choose from. They could even receive some special missions at certain times. The classification of knight squads can not only maximize the use of knights as an important resource to eliminate dangers, but also ensure that knights get the maximum experience and survival rate. Well, let's go register first. I think everyone is here to accept the investigation mission, and not many people are here to register as a knight squad. Yes, under the doubtful gazes of the crowd, the group arrived at the side door of the Knights' headquarters. After explaining the purpose of their visit to the staff, they were led to the team registration office. As expected, there was no one here. The person in charge of registration was a middle-aged woman with brown curly hair, gold-rimmed glasses, and an aquiline nose. Today is the first day before the expedition. We are so busy here. You little brats who just graduated came here to register as a Knight squad. Can't you wait for a few days? Han Dong just smiled and did not answer. Really? Hurry up. The woman handed over a new squad registration form. It needed to fill in the name of each member and the knight regiment they belonged to, but when Han Dong filled in the form, he suddenly froze. Team name. To be honest, Han Dong really did not think about what the team should be called. In general terms, the team consisted of the sorcerer, the beast warrior, the assassin, the blacksmith, and Han Dong, the crow, the sand, the aberration, the eyes, the tentacles, and the smithy. For a moment, they did not know what to call themselves. Seeing that Han Dong was stuttering while filling in the form, the old woman behind the counter looked a little upset. "Can you guys hurry up?" The old woman's urging was suddenly interrupted because Han Dong turned around and glanced at her. The young knight's glance actually made her feel extreme fear for a moment. Her scalp was already overflowing with a lot of sweat. The reason why she was chosen to join the Knight headquarters was because she had studied at the Knight Academy. Although her strength was not very good, her efficiency in work management was not bad. Plus, she was born as a noble. Under the situation where she did not break through the normal race to become a knight, she slowly transitioned into a clerical job. It took 10 years of hard work to be promoted to the knight headquarters. She had seen all kinds of knights, but this was the first time she saw such a young man. After Han Dong stunned the staff with a glance, he turned to look at his own team for advice. Nicholas, the name of the squad, is usually decided by the leader. You can decide. Vice Captain, you decide. Dear, I'll leave it to you. Han Dong, as the former vice captain of the squad, was actually regarded as the real leader. In this case, Han Dong directly set the name of the squad to be related to his attribute. At the same time, he also paid tribute to the teacher who had guided him all the way. Raven Lore, Raven's language. It was a slightly different name. After the staff confirmed that there were no other squads with the same name, they quickly completed the registration of the squad. Warren Nicholas, the champion of this year's night election. The old woman immediately straightened her face and did not dare to show any disrespect. The strange thing was that she had only heard the name and did not know what the champion looked like. Your squad has been created and can be checked by all knight units in the Holy City. The current level is Iron. The level of the squad can be increased by completing various knight level missions. Every time you accept a mission, you need to report the squad name and member information. Okay, when the squad left the room, they found that the long line in the hall trying to accept the investigation mission did not decrease, but instead increased at this moment. Han Dong looked at the third building where the investigation mission far was accepted. A group of familiar figures was discovered by Han Dong. Senior Lucius, Senior Luan Zhe, Senior Jun. Following Han Dong's shout. For a moment, he felt as if he was wrapped in a viscous blood lake. Lucius's aura had greatly improved compared to before. It seemed that he had cleared true fate once or even twice in the past year. When he heard the shout, Lucius's handsome face, which did not lose to Demp's, revealed a charming smile. After the Scarlet incident, Lucius was a shareholder of the Scarlet Mountain Villa. The relationship between the two had already changed from a hostile relationship to a good friend. It was also because of the strength displayed by Han Dong and Demp's in the Battle of the Scarlet Mountain Villa that stimulated Lucius's heart of a powerhouse. During this period of time, he had advanced by leaps and bounds and reached a higher level. Now, he was already a grade 3 knight. As for Senior Jin next to him, her killing intent was completely restrained and not exposed at all. Student Luan Zhe was wrapped in the aura of death and felt that he could summon an army of the undead with a wave of his hand. Chapter 728. Lucius glanced at him. Demps and Abel, who had fought side by side in the Scarlet Manor, also bowed slightly to the seniors. However, at the moment they met, Lucius smelled that Han Dong was wearing a different Scarlet attribute equipment because of the same aura. Obviously, he had obtained it recently. It was thick, scarlet, and full of a ritual aura. However, the equipment was personal property, so Lucius didn't ask much. Han Dong went straight to the topic. Senior Lucius, are you planning to take on this kind of probationary investigation mission? We're a little late, so we can't get a normal investigation mission. Let's form a joint team. We'll use the manor to deal with the investigation mission. It doesn't matter even if the distance is a little far. Although Lucius was the third holder of the Scarlet Manor, he could only teleport himself to the manor. He couldn't move the manor at any time, nor could he control the troops, nor did he have the authority to bring his teammates in. Once he encountered danger, Lucius couldn't run away alone. However, it would be different if Han Dong, the feudal lord, joined in. A smile appeared on Han Dong's face as he quickly nodded. Team up? There's such a thing. We were worried about not getting any investigation missions. Well, joint investigation missions above the medium scale are allowed. It's just that your team's level hasn't reached the standard yet. I don't know if it'll work. We just formed a team. Han Dong laughed awkwardly. Give it a try. You're the famous newcomers in the last night conference. The executives of the Holy City aren't old fogies. Just like that, under Lucius's lead, the group stepped into the third building. After checking, Lucius's team was called Scarlet Pledge. Level Gold. After the staff in charge of receiving them heard Lucius's request, he immediately reported the situation. He seemed to have heard a more interesting name among this group of young knights. An executive from the knight headquarters personally came to receive this group of special young people. An old man with a bald head, eyebrows, and beard had turned completely white. His physique was not much different from when he was in his prime. However, his right eye was completely destroyed, and his right arm was replaced by a mechanical steam prosthesis. Knight Headquarters, Mission Network Planner, Retired Imperial Army, Wood Fritzman. General Wood. When this person arrived, Abel immediately addressed him respectfully. Abel Ryan, your grandfather was willing to let you participate in the great expedition? Yes. Abel had been summoned by the Imperial Guards in advance because of his dragon nature. He had also met General Wood at a party because of Commander Keeman's connections. This general and Commander Kai Meng were sworn friends. According to the rules, Iron Level Squad is forbidden from touching the investigation mission, far away. However, you guys took advantage of a loophole by accepting the mission as a joint squad. I'll make an exception for you this time, but you can't talk about this with outsiders. Thank you, General Wood. After the old man finished speaking, his gaze lingered on Han Dong for a long time. He was also present at the night conference. Pollution immunity. It was because Han Dong had this that would made an exception for this group of young knights who represented the future of the Holy City to take on this dangerous trial mission. Investigation mission. Far Away was actually included in our consideration 20 years ago. Some senior writers and prophets can predict and capture situations more than 100 kilometers away. The related investigation mission cases have been recorded early and kept updated. High-risk incidents have been privately handled by the captain-level knights in advance. The coverage of the sub-safe zone has been increasing. As long as your overall quality passes, the investigation can be completed safely. After that, Wood took out a collection of investigation mission, Far Away, and handed it to the leader, Lucius. Since Lucius's team was only at the gold level, the missions they could take on could not exceed this level. Overall, there were 3 missions of medium scale and above that were more interesting. Investigation mission, Far Away, Fallen Shamans in the Wetlands, Foreseer and Foresight Illusion. Author, Rookeler, went to the wetlands area in a dream and was sacrificed by a shamanistic totem. Area, Mansgar Wetlands, distance 173 kilometers, scale. Medium, up to 2 night squads are allowed to work together. Team level. Gold or above investigation requirements, sad face 1. Find and clear all the fallen shamans, special type, pagans, lurking in the wetlands. 2. Remove all the altars and magic circles. 3. Bring back a sample of the wetland soil. A fallen shaman. Living samples will increase the reward. Danger level. If the fallen shaman completes the summoning ritual, the danger level may reach up to minimum reward 600 copper coins, team experience plus 100. Note, due to the limited foresight of the investigation mission, the specific reward will be based on the actual investigation results. If the actual difficulty is much higher than the estimated difficulty, the reward value will be increased or additional reward items will be given. Investigation mission, Far Away, Mysterious Corpse Hider, The Diviner and Diviner Illusions. Author Fanny. In the dream, Fanny's consciousness was wandering in an unnamed village. She was attacked by a mysterious humanoid creature and was forcefully buried alive in a pre-dug grave in the village. Area, 120 kilometers east of the Holy City, an unknown abandoned village in the plain area. Location may change, no more than 10 kilometers. Scale, medium and small. Up to 2 night squads are allowed to work together. Team level. Gold or above investigation requirements, sad face 1. Find the unknown village and the corpse hider. 2. After confirming the identity of the corpse hider, choose to kill it or return to the city to report the situation. According to author Fanny's senses, there is a certain probability that the corpse hider is a mature hybrid demon. Please be careful. Danger level. There is a very small possibility that the corpse hider's level is higher than the mature hybrid demon. The difficulty will reach minimum reward. 1,000 copper coins, team experience plus 200. The main contributor of the team will receive double the reward and a medal reward. Investigation mission. Far away. Uneasy sounds at the port. Foreseer and foresight illusion. Prophet, Mr. Black and White, heard strange sound from the port of Ostia. It is suspected that a large number of deep-sea evil creatures have landed at the port and are trying to turn the port into a city of the fallen. Area. Port of Ostia, 138 kilometers away. Scale. Large team level. Gold or above. At least 3 squads are required to work together. Investigation requirements. First stage arrive at the port of Ostia and observe the situation inside the port from the outside to determine the nature of the incident. After determining the situation, report the situation to the Holy City and listen for the next step. Danger level. Pending minimum reward. Pending. Chapter 729. The incident discovered by the teacher? The person who discovered the last large-scale investigation mission immediately attracted Han Dong's attention. Moreover, the identity of the person who discovered the first 2 incidents was completely different. Mr. Black and White was a prophet, and he was one of the best among the prophets. He could hear voices from outside the city. This was somewhat similar to the Dragon City team member, Little Diding, Yu Wu, that Han Dong had encountered in the inner story. However, regarding the above 3 investigation missions, Blood Knight Lucius's team was more interested in the second incident, the mysterious person who hid the corpse. The area was not large. The target was clear. The goal was single. This was an investigation mission with very few variables. As long as the preparations were done, the investigation could be completed smoothly, even if the person who hid the corpse was a mature hybrid demon. Han Dong, Lucius, and the others who had fought in the Scarlet Manor had all improved greatly now. It was not too difficult for them to deal with hybrid demons of the same level. In addition, the undead Lindsay in the team had the same attribute as this hybrid demon. To a certain extent, they could determine the other party's ability and obtain information in advance so that they could formulate a battle plan. Perhaps the knowledgeable Scarlet Count knew some information about this person who hid the corpse. After all, mature hybrid demons were not common. There were only a few around the Holy City. However, Han Dong was personally very interested in the third incident. Senior Lucius, go ahead. Can you consider the uneasy sound of the port? Reason. Lucius was a very reasonable person. As long as there was a reasonable enough explanation, he would definitely accept the advice given by others. 1. The supply of investigation missions before the expedition can't meet the demand. By the time we complete the medium-sized incident and return to the city, there may not be any more missions to accept. However, once a large-scale incident involving the port is completed, it will provide a high reward and a large number of expedition points. It is equivalent to completing 2 medium-sized incidents at once. 2. Port Ostia may belong to the territory occupied by a certain old king. Even if it is not, there must be a large number of evil creatures from the deep sea living there. The current population of the Scarlet Manor was far from enough. If they could absorb some high-quality deep-sea evil filth or even mantis demons to increase the strength of the manor, they could also be used in the Great Expedition. Secondly, Han Dong sent a private message to Lucius. Since the incident was discovered by Mr. Black and White, I should be able to get more useful information from my teacher. Han Dong's 3 points of information made Lucius fall into deep thought before he finally nodded and admitted it. Once Lucius admitted it, the other 2 members of his team wouldn't have any other opinions. However, there was still a problem that needed to be solved. Lucius asked, a large-scale event is essentially equivalent to a mini-expedition. It requires at least 3 teams. The strength of our 2 teams is rather extreme. It should be difficult to find a trustworthy and complementary team, right? Wait, I'll contact someone. The overall standard of her team is definitely not bad. Han Dong sent a message to a knight whom he had not contacted for a long time through a clockwork device. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't respond through the clockwork. Instead, footsteps came from the upper floor of the building. It seemed that the knight Han Dong contacted also happened to be in building number 3 to accept the investigation mission. After a while, the person Han Dong contacted walked down the stairs. It was a pure silver armor with a holy cross imprinted on its chest. On his back hung a heavy, sturdy, and golden heavy square shield with the image of the Blessed Virgin Mary printed on it. Around his waist hung a heavy flail that shone with a golden light. Wavy blonde hair, bright sea blue eyes, a high-nosed bridge, and plump lips. She was the Knight Wino Celeste of the Holy Knights who had been in contact with Han Dong a long time ago. She was also Han Dong's good friend and the cousin of Cass's wife. What was different from before was that Wino's entire body exuded a strange holy aura. Compared to the usual holy gentleness, the aura here was sharp and firm. There seemed to be some kind of mark hidden under her eyebrows that would appear under special circumstances. After the author incident, Wino had been in seclusion for 2 years because of the internal affairs of the Holy Knights and the special adjustments that involved the royal family. With the appearance of this beautiful and gracious knight with an extraordinary temperament, Mia felt a rare sense of danger. She quickly cast a hateful gaze at Wino, as if she was her love rival. Sister Wino, long time no see. Han Dong was prepared to be scolded. After all these years, he had never taken the initiative to contact her. However, Knight Wino, who was standing in the corridor, didn't have much of an expression on her face. Of course, Han Dong could still see that Wino was very angry. "You want my team to join a large-scale incident?" Wino asked coldly. "Yes. There's an investigation that happened to be discovered by Mr. Black and White. The 2 teams here aren't enough. I wonder if you're interested? Give me the name of the investigation mission. My teammates are still discussing another investigation mission upstairs. I'll get back to you in 10 minutes. Okay." Han Dong opened the investigation mission compilation and took the initiative to lean toward Wino and point to the large-scale incident that was written on it. Unexpectedly, Knight Wino deliberately reached out to take the book. At the same time, she quickly twisted the back of Han Dong's hand. Then, she turned and went upstairs. Due to the cover of the book, no one saw this twist. However, Han Dong stood in the corridor for a long time, enduring the pain from the back of his hand. The book had the holy light attribute, and it just happened to be pinched on Han Dong's mummy arm. The effect of the attribute restraining effect was quite strong. As Han Dong slowly walked back to the team, he was immediately greeted by Lucius and Abel's curious questions. "Nicholas, how do you know the combat nuns?" Combat nuns? It was another brand new term that Han Dong had never heard of. Blood Knight Lucius explained simply, "The royal family, the Holy See, and the Holy Knights set up a special unit called the Combat Nuns. They need to meet several harsh conditions, such as holy light, female, high combat ability, and abstinence. The specially trained combat nuns have the characteristic of restraining hybrid demons. When dealing with hybrid demons, they can display powerful abilities that ordinary knights do not have. Wino Celeste should be one of the selected knights a few years ago. At that time, there was a rather conspicuous announcement at the knight headquarters. The establishment of the combat nuns as a special unit should be directly related to the Great Expedition. Abel also added at this time, it should be reminded that after Abel finished the knight election as 3rd place, he was recognized by the head of the Holy Knights, Olivia, and obtained the qualifications for joint training. Abel, who had been in the Holy Knights for a while, had also heard of these things. He had also occasionally met Knight Celeste a few times. Wino's position in the Holy Knights was quite high, and she had many suitors. Everyone cast curious gazes at Han Dong. How should I put it? In the past, when I had just become a trainee knight, I had cooperated with Wino many times before Senior Lucius and the rest of you. We could be considered good friends, huh? Han Dong laughed a little awkwardly. This made Mia, who was at the side, feel like she had drunk a bottle full of vinegar. She held her breath, and her face flushed red. Blood Knight Lucius, on the other hand, was very satisfied with the third team candidate that Han Dong had found. If we can have the help of the combat nuns, things will be much simpler. Chapter 730. Knight's Headquarter, Building 3. In a private room, where one could sit down and discuss without exposing one's privacy. Wino Celeste and her team were discussing the investigation mission that they were about to accept. However, the captain of the team was not Wino. Instead, it was a woman with black hair that fell to her shoulders, silver chain armor, and deerskin shoes. She carried a heavy crossbow, branded with a silver skull symbol. The whole thing exuded a pure aura that made demons tremble, and two strange short swords on her waist. Wino had formed a team with this group of people since she was a novice knight and had established a deep friendship. Due to 2 years of closed-door training and being selected as a special force, combat nun, plus Wino herself was an all-round knight of holy light, she was already recognized as the vice-captain of the team. Team name: Silver Edge members, 4-team level, Thorium, 4th class, Captain, Wind Knights, Dismarilla's title. Heavy silver black eagle. This kind of heavy crossbowman was different from other Wind Knights who were used to scouting, long-range support, or agile super-fast archers. He was used to killing enemies at close range. Wino, you said that a group of new knights who just graduated half a year ago are going to carry out an investigation mission. And you want us to join? Even if this group of people had excellent results in the Knights Conference, no matter how wonderful their performance was, they are just a group of newcomers who don't have much combat experience outside the city. The whispers in the Eternal Night will make them unable to exert 50% of their strength. Except for Blood Knight Lucius, the others will only drag us down. When he heard Wino's proposal, Diz immediately showed a reluctant expression. It was not that he did not recognize the strength of Han Dong and his team. It was just that he personally valued experience. Moreover, this time they were going to carry out a long-range investigation mission that had never been done before. When forming a joint team, they had to consider the problems of each member. Once any knight was not up to par, the efficiency of the team would be lowered. Once there was a mental problem, they could fall under the whispers of the Eternal Night and become the most deadly enemy. Traitor. Captain Nicholas is different. This large-scale investigation was discovered by his teacher, and he can provide additional information. In addition, he has been confirmed in the Knights Conference that he has the same pollution immunity physique as Captain Hugo. No matter how far they were from the Holy City, there wouldn't be too much pressure. Captain Diaz, since we can't choose a better investigation mission, why don't we cooperate with them? Anyway, large-scale investigation missions were divided into stages. If they really show a serious lack of experience during the mission and are unable to adapt to the Evernight environment far away from the Holy City, we will apply to return to the city after completing the first phase. Wino's firm attitude surprised Captain Diz. All right, then we'll do as you say this time, Wino. All right. Not long after, Wino pretended to be indifferent and called the group of people who were waiting downstairs. Captain Diaz was sitting in a corner, using a special silver liquid to clean the nearly 1 meter long pure silver arrows. Since Wino had taken the lead, he remained silent. His gaze only lingered on Blood Knight Lucius for a moment and did not look at anyone else. When the 3 teams met, it was naturally a simple self-introduction. There were 2 knights in the Silver Edge squad. They were the Ice Caster from the Sorcerer Knights, Manny Ice Shaft, and the Benign Pharmacist from the Knights of Pestilence, Lilinia Shoals. The reason why these 2 members of the squad did not have much of an opinion about this joint team was because of Manny. Manny had been in contact with the genius Demps since a long time ago. Demps had been trained in the Sorcerer Knights in advance, while Lilinia had heard of Han Dong's name from the Great Pestilence. She also knew that Han Dong and the Great Pestilence were dual cultivators. She worshipped the Great Pestilence from the bottom of her heart, and also acknowledged Han Dong, who could do this. Just like that, the cooperation between the squads was quickly established. Because the Silver Edge squad had the highest level, After discussion, if the large-scale mission was successfully completed, the final reward would be distributed according to the ratio of 5, 3, 2. Han Dong did not have any objections. After all, what they wanted was more knowledge points. As for Han Dong, he was not too interested in the material rewards. Instead, he was interested in the deep-sea filth that landed at the harbor and had a heretical need. Moreover, as a mystic scholar and a black mage, Han Dong had a unique intuition. The event foretold by Mr. Black and White this time would be an effective warm-up exercise before embarking on the great expedition. The event has been reported to the Knight headquarters, and it will take effect in time. We are expected to depart from the city gate, west, at 10 o'clock sharp tomorrow morning. During this time, everyone should prepare for the investigation mission. Nicholas, you will mainly get more information from Mr. Black and White. Everyone else, prepare all kinds of potions, scrolls, holy seals, long-lasting lighting devices, and so on. This is our first investigation mission more than 100 kilometers away, so I hope everyone can take it seriously. If in the first stage of the investigation period, there are some potential dangers that we can't fight against, I will consider giving up the mission and returning. Okay. After the basic instructions were given, the squads dispersed and prepared the necessary supplies. Nicholas, I have something to talk to you about alone. As Knight Wino said this, the first thing she received was not Han Dong's response, but Mia's hostile eyes. Mia, who was about to speak, was immediately covered by Han Dong's hand and pushed out of the door of building number 3. After a few words with a rather tough attitude, he asked Wen Li to accompany Mia with her strong and powerful arms. They went back together to prepare the supplies needed during the investigation mission. At the same time, he also asked Mia to prepare a large number of herbal preparations in advance. After everyone left, Wino slapped Han Dong's back heavily. The situation was different from what Wino had imagined. In her impression, Han Dong, who was weak, should have been slapped a few meters away. In fact, Han Dong had only taken a step forward. A large part of the palm power seemed to have been absorbed by Han Dong's torso. Wino buried the shock in her heart and said with a cold face, "If there's nothing, you won't contact me at all. If there's something, you'll send me a message. I've contacted you before, but I heard that you were in seclusion, so let's get to the point. This joint team was my idea, and Captain Diaz didn't agree. I understand. So when the time comes, you'll need to make some contributions in advance. I know. As an apology and a thank you for your help, how about I treat you to dinner tonight? We're leaving the city tomorrow. Hurry up and prepare. But it's good to replenish your food source in advance. Well, I'd like to ask you about the combat nuns." Chapter 731. Inside a Knight's exclusive hotel on the second floor of the Holy City, Han Dong and Miss Weiner, who had changed into casual clothes, were having their meal in a private room. Wino did not stand on ceremony either. She focused all of her attention on the valuable meat that could temporarily increase her attributes. However, it was fine with Han Dong. If he did not have money, he could just borrow some from Dempus. When talking about the new Special Force combat nuns, Weiner, who was born in the royal family and had a close relationship with the Supreme Holy See, gave a lot of interesting information. The special force that the Holy City had been secretly building in the past few years was far more than just the combat nuns. Moreover, the upcoming expedition would not use the 13 Knight regiments as a unit. There would be a more special division of regiments. All kinds of special forces that were specifically used to deal with the Eternal Night environment and the hybrid demons would be thrown into the expedition. Other than the combat nuns, there were two other special forces that Winan knew about. The special force that was created by the Judicial Department of the Parliament, the Supreme Prison Management Headquarters, and the Steam Knights. The special force that was created by the Royal Family, the Behemoth Knights, the Lionheart Knights, the Black Rose Knights, and the Hell Knights. So many special forces have been added. Yes, that's all I know. There are more special forces that are specifically built for the purpose of the expedition. Han Dong made a thoughtful expression. From the looks of it, Perhaps every knight regiment was connected to the special forces that the Holy City was secretly forming. Perhaps he himself would be recruited one day. At this moment, Weiner, who had just swallowed a piece of magic fish cheese sandwich, asked curiously, "Oh yeah, when you participated in the night conference, I had not completed the combat nuns training. Nicholas, what is your talent tree? I heard that you used a method similar to the Great Plague growth. Is it a new type of talent tree, or is it one of the known tree species of the mysterious apprentice?" When she asked this question, Han Dong put down the knife and fork in his hand and wiped the oil stains on his hands with a wet towel. His left and right index fingers clasped the corners of his mouth and pulled them up at the same time, forming an exaggerated weird smile. Smiley face. Smiley face. After fusing Crusader, wildness, and mysticism, plague together, Elder Pestilence acquired the unique talent tree, Calamity. Even the name sounded overbearing and powerful. Moreover, he could roughly guess the characteristics of the corresponding ability from its name. However, the name of Han Dong's talent tree was very strange. There was no way to determine its ability system, and he couldn't even sense any attack from it. Furthermore, Wino was confused as to why such a weird name like Smiley Face would appear in the fusion of plague and magic. "You'll know what I'm capable of when we reach Port Ostia. Sister Wino, you're now a famous combat nun. If I can join the expedition, you'll have to take care of me, Sister Wino. Don't play dumb in front of me. You're definitely stronger than me now." That was it. As the topic was slowly opened up, the estrangement from not seeing each other for a few years had slowly faded away. The current Han Dong was no longer the weak novice knight from before. The specific strength would be revealed in the next investigation mission. Dinner was over. "Sister Wino, let's meet at the city gate tomorrow on time. I'll go back tonight and ask my teacher for some information. I am okay." She stared at Nicholas, who got into the carriage and drove away. Wino's thoughts were a little messy, but it wasn't because of emotional problems. More importantly, she was surprised at the level Han Dong had reached. As a combat nun, due to the effects of abstinence, cultivation, and special preaching, Wino was able to constantly emit a kind of sensing and even penetrate the hybrid demon's holy light domain. The effect would be maximized within a 10-meter radius. However, when the holy light reached Han Dong, it was like a stone thrown into a lake, immediately disappearing without a trace. It's not strange. He was once a novice knight, but he was able to deal with the writer's incident in Maldini's mansion. "Nicholas, what level have you reached?" A day of preparation time passed quickly. There was bad news. Han Dong couldn't contact Mr. Black and White. He was neither in the stargazing room nor in the clock tower. Later, through Mia's connection, he learned from the witch that Mr. Black and White had left 2 days ago. The current affairs of the mystery branch were completely handled by the witch and the other 2 deputy directors. No one knew what exactly he was going to do or when he would be back. Since this was the case, Han Dong couldn't get any more information. After preparing all the supplies, they set off the next day. City Gate. West, 3 special carriages were assembled here. For investigation missions, the team would usually use carriages as transportation. As for the cost of making the carriages, the team would share the cost. A high-grade carriage often cost a lot of money, and it even required some materials brought out from the Destiny realm. Silver Edge, Thorium, the corresponding carriage. Silver Falcon, it was a high-grade, fully modified horse. More than 80% of the body, including the brain, was replaced by machinery. The horse would no longer panic when encountering powerful hybrid demons and could maintain its maximum speed at all times. The only downside was that it needed regular care and was not suitable for moving in magnetic fields. It would also be seriously affected by metallic hybrid demons. The carriage was made of copper and silver alloy, and it was equipped with a perfect power system and panoramic system. A white eagle stood on top of the carriage, which was the symbol of the team. Bright red pledge gold, the corresponding carriage. Black war wheel, it was a half-modified horse, an improved breed of black Trekner horse, with 40% mechanical replacement, keeping the brain. Its powerful jumping ability and speed were enhanced by steam. This improved breed of horse could connect with its owner's mind in times of danger, reducing fear and maintaining a certain level of adaptability. However, when encountering an absolutely terrifying existence, it would panic and run away, or even be directly corrupted. The carriage was made of dark iron, and it was designed with a highly airtight structure. It focused on defense, and only the gaps in the carriage needed blood to seep through. The surface of the carriage was printed with the coat of arms of a dark red skull with a dagger. Just as the two carriages arrived, a black blur sped out of the narrow and winding alley of the commoner district at a rapid speed. Mr. Black and White's crow reins, because the team had just been created, no one had prepared carriage. Han Dong directly used the carriage that Mr. Black and White gave him as the transportation for the investigation mission. The people in the other two carriages were speechless. Chapter 732. It was Mr. Black and White's carriage. Not only was it fast, but its concealment was also excellent. It could even fly temporarily under special circumstances. The carriage also provided high anti-magic properties and various external illusions. The horse used to pull the carriage was not a product of steam, but the horse of fate, Midnight, that Mr. Black and White had purchased from the Destiny Realm with a high amount of points and special coins. The carriage was handmade by the best stitchers in the Holy City using epic-level materials. Every inch of leather was a master-level masterpiece. In addition to its external functions, the comfort of riding, it was also unparalleled. In terms of level, it could not be compared to the carriages of ordinary knights. As a result, the following journey was slightly awkward. As the highest level carriage, the Silver Edge was supposed to lead the way. However, in terms of speed, safety, and detection, Mr. Black and White's carriage had the upper hand. At this moment, Han Dong poked his head out and suggested, "Last year, as subordinates, we followed Senior Lucius out of the city to assist in the investigation of the blood plague in the Aragad Mountains. We have some experience. Let us lead the way. The carriage provided by our teacher is excellent in concealment and detection and can avoid unnecessary dangers on the journey." Lucius's side naturally had no problem. In their eyes, Han Dong was the person who single-handedly defeated Count and was the great lord outside the city. After a while of discussion, the Silver Edge also gave instructions in agreement. The distance between the carriages was set at 200 m to 500 m, depending on the actual terrain and situation. If the carriages were too close, it would cause loud noises and increase the probability of being attacked by creatures outside the city. If the carriages were too scattered, once they encountered an overlapping space or some spatial interference area outside the city, it would cause the team to be completely separated. That was it. Raven's language was the first. Silver Edge was the middle. Bright Red Oath was the last. After the city gate guards conducted a strict examination of the investigation documents and the identities of the members, the auxiliary passage at the bottom of the city gate for carriages to pass through opened. The three carriages sped out. Han Dong also controlled Midnight's running speed to be 100 kilometers per hour so that the two teams behind could keep up. No matter how bumpy the forest road was, the inside of the carriage was as smooth as silk. Mia used gauze to filter the herbal grinding liquid and permeated it into a portable test tube that could be directly drunk or injected. He stared at Han Dong with a strange look in his eyes. She made an angry expression as if her man had spent the night with another woman last night. Mr. Black and White left. When Han Dong mentioned his teacher's situation, Abel's face was filled with confusion. He's been gone for 2 days. I can't contact him either. Mr. Black and White is a prophet with a special position in the sacred city. The construction of the astrology room cost the sacred city a lot of resources, and it was built so that Mr. Black and White could maximize the effectiveness of his astrology ability. Mr. Black and White doesn't even need to participate in all kinds of important meetings. He can participate in them through the long-distance projection of the astrology room. I heard my grandfather mention that the astrology room seemed to be set up with the intention of grounding Mr. Black and White. I don't know the specific reason. I rarely hear of him leaving. It's a bit strange. Maybe it's because of the Great Expedition. Han Dong still remembered that when he had just returned from the Destiny Realm and asked Mr. Black and White about the Great Expedition, Mr. Black and White's attitude was very firm and directly said that he would not participate in it. The things that Teacher has done behind the scenes may be much more than what we have done. While the carriage was moving quickly in the forest, because of the special smell emitted by the crow carriage, some of the patrolling crowmen nearby were attracted. Caw-caw, they all squatted on branches dozens of meters away and called out to greet their lord. When these crowmen tried to escort their lord, they were immediately driven away by Han Dong to avoid any suspicion from the silver edge that was tailing them. Han Dong also tried to get information about the port of Ostia from the crowmen. However, the port was quite a distance away from the border of the Gain Forest, so the crowmen who were only active in the forest did not know about it. In the end, they stopped twice on the road. They went around a forest lake area that was emitting a strange smell. After killing a group of antlers that blocked their way, after about 4 hours, they finally left the western border of the Gain Forest and came to a cement road that was eroded by the forest. The open cement road that was once used by humans to travel between cities and trade caravans more than 200 years ago was now cracked on a large scale. The cracks of the cement road were filled with sucker plants that had spread out from the Gain's forest. There were blooming flowers, there were blotchy mushrooms with suckers in the center, there were thread-like plants that wriggled like living things, there were roots that were full of suckers and looked like tentacles of an octopus. It was a very beautiful scene. At the same time, Han Dong found an old road sign by the side of the road that he could barely make out the words. Ostia, 20 kilometers. Since the rest of the journey was not covered by the forest, considering the potential danger of the port, after some discussion, they decided to walk to the port. The carriages were left at this safe point in the Gain Forest. The knights who carried out the investigation mission would record the distribution of monsters, density of demons, along the route and bring it back to the Holy City in exchange for some rewards. The Knights' headquarters would also use the information to draw a sub-safe zone map within the area of 100 kilometers and mark the safe points with the least density of monsters on the map for the Knights to reorganize or park the carriages. As the 3 carriages were parked in the same area, Mr. Black and White's Midnight let out a roar and a powerful aura spread out. Even if there was a newborn mantis demon, it would be repelled by the ghostly aura of Midnight. In this way, the safety of the carriages was guaranteed. All the members were equipped with the basic equipment of an investigator: goggles, earplugs, insulating rubber magic gloves, cloak that could hide their aura, and high-top leather shoes with excellent waterproof properties. Generally speaking, the knights who went out of the city for investigation would all dress like this in a low-key manner. They would not show their big swords or shiny knight breastplates as soon as they arrived. Low-key investigation and high-profile handling. When the 3 teams were approaching the port at a slightly faster speed, Han Dong suddenly stopped in his tracks and waved his hand, signaling everyone to find the nearest cover and take cover. His unique perception field had already captured the abnormal movement 500 meters away. After about 10 seconds, Captain Diaz of the Silver Edge also sensed something. Diaz could not help but be shocked. He turned around and looked at Han Dong, who was hiding on a tree branch. In terms of scouting ability, Han Dong was without a doubt the most powerful member of the team. However, it was reasonable for a mysterious apprentice to be excellent in detection. 5 minutes later, a strange scene came into view. The person who was walking slowly along the road was not a demon or a heretic. It was a middle-aged man who was wearing a sweatshirt and jeans. He looked simple and plain. His strong and powerful arms were transporting a large amount of seafood through a handcart. It seemed like he was going to transport it somewhere. Upon closer inspection, some of the features of the man were different. For example, the gill-like structure under his cheekbones. Chapter 733. Magic Eye from Han Dong's unique perspective, he found more than just the gill structure below the cheekbone. When he saw through the clothes, he also found some special fish scale structures scattered under the skin. The internal organs in his body had a mucosal mesh structure that connected the multiple organs together. Under special circumstances, all the organs worked together with high efficiency. But what puzzled Han Dong the most was that the brain of the middle-aged man who lived outside the city did not show any signs of corruption. Without the protection of the holy city, ordinary people who lived alone outside would inevitably be unable to escape the fate of being polluted and corrupted. Han Dong studied the brain structure of the heretics, ghouls, and blood descendants in a manner. He also indirectly confirmed one thing. When normal life forms were affected by pollution, the brain area was the first to be corrupted. The most obvious feature was that there would be a kind of pink filamentous material made up of brain cells growing in the sulcus to strengthen the brain's signal reception so that it could receive the whispers from the evil spirits and accelerate the corruption. In the later stages, the brain would also undergo a greater degree of mutation and could no longer maintain the initial oval state. It was mainly in the form of blooming flowers, entanglement, and multi-spheroids. But the middle-aged man observed by the little magic I did not have any changes in his brain structure, and even the brain filaments formed in the early stages of pollution could not be seen in the sulcus. The only difference was that he was different from normal people. His brain was wrapped in a layer of transparent soft membrane. The membrane was only less than a millimeter away from the brain, and the inside was filled with a little seawater. It seemed that it was the membrane and the seawater that isolated and protected the middle-aged man, allowing him to live outside the city all year round and maintain his consciousness without corruption and corruption. Han Dong had never seen or even heard of such a situation. As for the wooden cart behind the man, there were a lot of conches on it. They were of different sizes. The surface was either smooth or with spikes. They were either dotted or striped. They were either flat or conical. But these conches had a common feature. The lower end of the opening flowed out disgusting, filthy materials. These materials fell to the ground with the wooden cart and were absorbed by the strange plants in the cracked ground. At this moment, the Silver Edge team was also discussing. It was just that Night Wino's remarks made Captain Diz unable to understand. What? No pollution? That's right. My holy light domain has already spread out. Any life form that has fallen under the influence of the hybrid demons will have a strong reaction. But this person didn't. He was like a normal person who lived outside the city all year round. However, the conch I'm dragging behind me is emitting a dense, foul aura. Under the cover of my holy light domain, it feels like it's about to move. Get ready. Guessing in the dark was useless. Verifying it face-to-face was the most direct way. The plan had already been formulated. They would use the team's Ice Master to quickly freeze them, and then the team leader, Diz, would interrogate them severely. To be honest, this was the first time the battle-hardened Diz had encountered such a situation. He could not sense any dangerous aura from the man in front of him, nor could he determine that this person was a fallen one. But Diz did not think that there were normal people living outside the city. Sola, freeze him. Yes. The ice layer had just spread out. Ha ha ha, a burst of laughter suddenly rang out. The strange laughter came from Han Dong, who was hiding in the branches. This strange smile reminded Night Winer of the talent tree that Han Dong had talked about yesterday. Smiley face. The laughter only worked on the target. It directly stunned the middle-aged man and made him fall into a state of confusion. However, the effect did not satisfy Han Dong. Sure enough, the membrane and seawater can protect the brain. It can even block most of my laughter. The figure quickly jumped out and stood in front of the middle-aged man. The magic eyes looked at each other, and the pupil seal rotated. In this way, the membrane that had been vibrating because of the laughter was completely broken. The mind control was successful. As Han Dong gestured with his hand, the three teams all walked out from the shadows before the Knights of the Silver Edge could evaluate Han Dong's action this time. Han Dong directly controlled the middle-aged man and told him his identity and relevant information. My name is Hernie Mabra, and I work at the waste processing station in the port of Ostia. I'm mainly responsible for sending everyone's conch waste to the landfill in the forest. My boss is called... No, I can't stop. I have to send these used conches to the landfill as soon as possible. If the time is delayed for too long, it will be dangerous. Halfway through the self-introduction, Hernie suddenly became nervous. And Han Dong also noticed that his brain had become abnormally active, rejecting the control of the demon eye. The source of Hernie's nervousness was the conches on the wooden cart. Did the holy light stimulate these conches? Everyone retreat first. At the same time, Sola Ice Spike of the Silver Edge team had already spread out a layer of ice in an attempt to completely freeze the conches and solve the problem. Due to its ice-cold bloodline, thick ice, and other characteristics. In an instant, the conches were completely frozen and the temperature dropped to negative 100 degrees Celsius. However, the conches were still trembling slightly. Everyone sensed the danger and quickly retreated. Being contaminated before the investigation mission was a very low-level mistake. Crack, crack, crack. The thick layer of ice was completely broken. Foul-smelling, slippery, dark green octopus tentacles grew out of the conches and directly wrapped around Hernie Mabra, who was standing still in the same spot. They seemed to be fighting for food. The tentacles wrapped around Hernie's body pulled hard. Whoosh! Poor Hernie was completely torn apart, swallowed into different conches, and digested. All of this settled down in 10 seconds. Let me handle it. Blood Knight Lucius volunteered to fight. The eyes on his handsome face were abnormally bright under the night sky. In the posture of a knight, he strode toward the wooden cart with his head held high, and his right hand landed on the surface of the sword at his waist. As Lucius approached, these conches grew tentacles again because they smelled something. Unsheathing. Lucius's swordsmanship was completely different from Hua Zipping's swordsmanship in the inner chapter world. Hua Zipping's sword carried dragon's might, swift and fatal. Lucius's sword was wrapped in thick blood aura. It could even be said that the sword was a sea of blood, crushing the target with absolute power. He was like a tyrannical blood monarch. This kid is also growing very quickly. Scarlet Count, who was hiding in Han Dong's body, became abnormally excited because of the blood aura emitted by Lucius. If there was a chance, Count would definitely want to taste Lucius's blood. Blood red descended. Almost all of the conches were broken and died. At the same time, an additional bloody hand grew on Lucius's back and tightly bound an unharmed conch. It would be an important piece of evidence in the first phase of the investigation mission. It stared at Lucius, who was emitting a bright red luster, and simply commented, "Blood Knight Lucius, the young knight that Commander Shea values the most." Interesting. Just like that, they successfully obtained an important piece of evidence and a certain amount of clues. Captain Ditz gave an imperative suggestion. Port Ostia is not far ahead. The next 3 hours will be used as investigation time. Each team will conduct a superficial investigation of the port. After 3 hours, we will gather here, gather the information, and report to the Holy City. Okay, with that, the 3 teams immediately approached the strange port city from different directions. Chapter 734. The team split up and headed to the port in different directions. Because of encountering a situation that Han Dong had seen before, but he could not understand. He immediately connected what had just happened to Nicole Littleclaw, who was related to the deep sea in his mind. Nicole's existence was also the main reason why Han Dong chose the port incident when he was faced with the 1 out of 3 situation. He could use Nicole's identity as a deep sea relative to quickly investigate the incident and try to find an opportunity to raise Nicole's level. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But that man and Conch both have problems, but I don't know where they come from. I have a certain homology with them, but it's not strong. Is that so? It's no wonder, Nicole, you were born in the fog system of the Destiny world. You only come into contact with relatives and not the real deep sea hybrid demons. The proportion of the sea is much higher than the inland, and there are countless hybrid demons hiding in the sea. Nicole, you should stay in the prison during the early stages of the investigation. You have the royal bloodline from the deep sea in your body. If you appear rashly, I may become the target of public criticism. Got it? Nicole's tone was a little unwilling, but she did not say much. Don't worry, I won't restrain you for too long. The problem with this port city should be bigger than any of us expected. During the operation, when Lee, who was in the group, suddenly asked, Nicholas, that man just now, is he a normal human? Normal, but also not normal. His body had a deep change that leaned towards fish, but his brain did not show any signs of decay. Whether he can be counted as a human or not, I can't make a conclusion. The investigation this time is a little strange. Whether it was from Lucius's expression or the expressions of the Knights of Silver Edge, it seemed that this was the first time they encountered such a situation. Dimps, have you seen him before? As Han Dong threw the question to the well-read young man who had a deep connection with the outside of the city. Dimps also shook his head. I also rarely touch the domain of the sea, so I don't know more than you. Based on the current strange situation, we need to be careful. After a while, the Raven Whisper team found a high ground and looked down at the investigation ground, Port Ostia. Under the eternal night, most of the buildings in the port city were lit up. This was a sprawling, wide, densely built town. The entire city was in the shape of a crescent moon surrounding the port. Just by standing on a high ground 200 meters away from the town, they could already smell the rotten smell of dead fish. The streets running through the town were originally flat, but now they were replaced by puddles, mud, piles of dirt, and so on. The residents of the town were walking in the dirty supermarket streets with their backs bent. Their expressions were gloomy. His widened eyes seemed to have degenerated into a blink feature. His eyes remained open to the maximum extent for a long time, and he often needed to wash them with clean water. Perhaps it was due to economic problems, but many of the townspeople who walked outside did not wear shoes or only wore half a shoe. Their feet were larger than the average person's, and a small number of them even had webbed structures between their toes. There were also some people who looked richer, wearing undamaged long tube shoes. They were almost no different from ordinary people. Other than wearing better clothes, they also carried guns and strange conches with them, always on guard against the people around them. Other than the residents, the buildings in the port town were also very unique. There were large hotels with tentacles and shell decorations on the signboards. The giant chimney of the ironworks constantly emitted thick black smoke. The entire coastline was built densely with a large number of docks, and a large number of figures were moving around. Once the coastline was crossed, the entire sea would be covered by a thick fog, and only a blurry shadow of lights could be seen. At least 10 fishing boats were sailing in the coastal area. Just by looking at the surface, there weren't any hybrid demons in the town, nor were there any signs of any heretical activities. This human town that was separated from the Destiny space and existed independently outside the city was in a strange way self-sufficient. Most of the members of the team could not understand the scene in front of them. Han Dong's attention stayed outside the town, staring at the wet port area full of docks. When Han Dong was upgrading his faceless one head for the first time, his consciousness used the identity of a fisherman and lived in a port similar to this one for the rest of his life. Then he continued to look forward, staring at the coastline shrouded in thick fog. That is, at a certain moment, dozens of lights from the cruise ship, most of them overlapped, and the lights overlapped together like a big eye behind the fog. The light, the fog, and some shadows from the deep sea formed a clear black and white contrast, forming a huge shadow silhouette. It was as if there was an existence bigger than the entire port town in the fog, and it was watching Han Dong. For a moment, Han Dong's brain produced a strong sense of resistance, and at the same time, it was accompanied by a burst of laughter, resisting the invasion of some kind of foreign thought. The port returned to normal. However, there was a problem with Han Dong. The moving land deed, Scarlet Manor, controlled by Han Dong, completely lost its senses at this moment, and it could not teleport itself to the manor, nor could it establish a connection with the existence in the manor. In the fixed land deed, Stewart Manor also felt very far away from Han Dong, and it could not call for help from the crowmen. When Han Dong looked at Demps, the latter's expression was also solemn. Obviously, as the second in command of the Scarlet Manor, Demps also lost his senses. At the same time, he also lost contact with Mother. 3 hours later, the three teams gathered and combined all the information they had collected about the port. Basically, it was confirmed that the town was self-sufficient in a very strange way. A superficial investigation could not confirm whether there were hybrid demons from the deep sea hiding in the port town. As for the pagans who might be worshipping the deep sea, they might be hiding in the ordinary world, or they might be hiding in a cave in the sea cliff, carrying out evil rituals. The specific situation needed in-depth investigation. Based on the current investigation, the most obvious strange sign in the town was the conch. All the residents sleeping in the town would have conches covering their faces. Just as they were about to send this information back to the Holy City, they found that the clockwork devices worn by everyone were disconnected from the Holy City. It's possible that more than 100 kilometers away, due to the influence of the Evernight environment, the transmission of the magic circle is blocked. Please, those who are good at moving quickly, come out and follow me back to Gain Forest to send a message to the Holy City. Everyone else, wait here. The one who proposed this was the most senior Captain Diaz. Jean and Abel came out one after another. The three formed a communication team and immediately rushed to the sub-safe zone at the fastest speed. About 20 minutes later, when the three returned along the main road, their expressions were unusually heavy. Captain Diaz, what's the next order from the Holy City? We're trapped. Maybe at some point, we've been introduced into the overlapping space or some other unknown situation. There's no Gain Force on the way back. If we follow the road back, we'll only end up at the sea cliff. In other words, we're currently on an unknown island, and the road back to the city no longer exists. As soon as this was said, everyone was silent. Chapter 735. Not to mention the uniqueness of Han Dong. The two teams here had reached the level of gold and thorium, respectively. The doubts and uneasiness on the faces of Lucius and Diz also showed that the two had never encountered such a situation. If they encountered overlapping space, the moment they stepped into the space channel, there would be a sense of spatial rejection, which would inevitably be noticed by everyone. No matter how slippery the space channel was, Han Dong, who opened the Void Laboratory, would definitely sense it. Illusion, the possibility was not high. Due to the influence of whisper and indescribable on the spiritual corruption, all the knights who went out of the city to carry out the investigation would prepare their spiritual defenses in advance. Most of them would go to the church a day in advance to receive a prayer blessing that would last for a week. Therefore, it was impossible to say that everyone had fallen into some kind of illusion without any signs. Besides, Han Dong, the big boss with full spiritual defense, was still here. Unless there was an existence that could completely overpower Han Dong in the sea when they just stared at the harbor. The difference in level between the two was several levels. It could directly ignore the spiritual defense created by the faceless skull and the mad laughter. There was also a combination of the above two. Spatial illusion. This was the blind spot of the current group of knights. After the investigation by Diz, Jane, and Abel, they should have reached the border of Gain Forest after walking 20 kilometers along the road. Instead, they came to a sea cliff about 200 meters high. I'm going to investigate from the sky. After that, Han Dong released a crow from his palm and quickly flew to the sky. That was right. In the vision shared by the crow, they only saw an isolated island surrounded by the thick fog of the sea. When they continued to control the crow to try to leave the island, the connection was immediately cut off as it flew into the fog. It further confirmed that everyone was trapped on the island, and there was a huge danger lurking in the sea. Diz of Silver Edge had a sharp look in his eyes and immediately gave a response plan. Attention everyone, we encountered uncontrollable situations during the investigation mission and were unable to establish contact with the Holy City. We can't even confirm our current location. Exposed to the eternal night for a long time without the purification of the sanctum, our spirit will one day be eroded by various contaminants. Our next investigation will focus on our own escape. If anyone had any ideas about the island, they could raise them immediately. At the same time, all of us will also be the supervisors and the supervised. Once we discover any signs of contamination in the team, we'll have to report it immediately. Knight Celeste can grant holy light baptism. However, the effect of this baptism would be greatly reduced as the number of baptisms increased. Once the degree of contamination exceeded 30% and the person had been baptized more than 3 times, they would be dealt with according to the way the Holy City dealt with the fallen. Especially you newbies, I hope you can be mentally prepared. Of course, if my team members meet the above conditions, I will deal with them immediately. I will decisively execute you while your knightly spirit still exists. I will let you die as noble knights, and not as degenerates spurned by thousands of people. Dismarillas gave a correct and important joint rule the moment the anomaly occurred. No one had any objections. Diz continued. After a preliminary investigation, we've determined that the surface of the port town isn't dangerous. We suggest that everyone infiltrate the port area individually or as a 2-person team. Those who can disguise will investigate on the surface side. The other team members will investigate on the dark side through concealment. Find out the hidden secrets of the port town as quickly as possible. First, let me see who among you can disguise. The apothecary of the Silver Edge, Lalencia Shoals. A female knight with a large number of freckles on her face consumed a special potion mixed with fish biological grinding fluid. With her ability, she immediately emitted an aura similar to the fishermen of the port. Captain Diz smiled with satisfaction when he saw his team members' perfect disguise. Immediately after, Blood Knight Lucius also made his blood emit a similar aura through his contact with Conch. Then, he dipped a spare gray cloak in dirty water and covered his body. Disguise was an advanced ability. In Diz's opinion, Lucius was already very good to be able to do this. As for the newbie knights in the Raven Whisper team, there was no need to consider them. Barely. Lucius, form a 2-person disguise team with Lalencia from my team and infiltrate from the surface. At this moment, a gloomy and damp aura hit them. It was as if another townsfolk had come here to consign seafood. Everyone tilted their heads and focused their gazes on Han Dong. Moist and protruding eyeballs, multiple layers of eye bags, gills under his cheekbones, a few fish scales, and a stooped figure. Most importantly, Han Dong's entire body emitted a fishy aura. This scene made Diz dumbfounded. He actually wanted to ask Han Dong how he did it, but his pride as a senior forced him to suppress his curiosity. At the same time, Han Dong said with a voice that sounded like a layer of seawater in his throat, "Gurgle, Captain Diz, please let me investigate the coastal port area of the town alone. Once I find any important information, I'll share it with everyone as soon as possible." Okay, this image, this voice, it must be an old fisherman. Diz cleared his throat. Ahem. If you find any hybrid demons or cultists hiding in the town during the infiltration process, immediately share it with everyone. Immediately share the information with us. We'll deal with it after discussion. Don't act on your own. Immediately, everyone carried out a comprehensive inspection of the clockwork device on their wrists. Although the device could not contact the Holy City, communication between teams was not a problem. That was it. Listen to Diz's instructions. Infiltrate the port town from different angles in a single or 2-person unit. When Han Dong left the team, he did not hide anything. Gurgle, a void tentacle that could extend for a long distance, shot out from his palm. When moving outside the city, it was safer and more secretive to use the tentacle to perform fast and stable spatial teleportation than the crow's flight. Moreover, it was faster in specific areas. Splat! The tentacle stuck to the dock at the edge of the port. It just so happened that a steam-powered iron ship had returned with a full load and was unloading. With the efforts of more than 10 crew members, a large number of conches tilted down. One of the crew members seemed to have not been able to sleep for several days. His eyes were bloodshot and even covered with a large number of black spots. He forced his eyelids open with a rather hard nail to keep them awake. He stared at the conch with an extremely eager smile and immediately removed the nail from his eyelids. He found a fresh conch and aimed the mouth of the conch at his face. Gurgle, several translucent, clean tentacles immediately drilled into the crew member's nostrils and mouth, and he fell asleep on the spot. The rest of the crew continued to work, sorting the conches they salvaged according to their quality. High-quality conches could be sold for a good price. Chapter 736. Han Dong, who was lurking in the shadows, fixed his gaze on the sleeper. Judging from the current situation, the crew member who couldn't wait to sleep had to rely on the conch to fall asleep. However, there was also a question about this. Did he have to rely on the conch's absorption to fall asleep? Or could it be that individuals could sleep on their own, but the conch's absorption could ensure their safety during the sleep period? Recalling the middle-aged man who dragged the filthy conch through the wooden cart on the road before, Han Dong was more inclined to the latter situation. Perhaps this is the real reason why the port townspeople can keep their minds clear and not show signs of degeneration. If one observed the sleeper in depth, they would find that the transparent and clean tentacles connected to the crew member's nose and mouth would constantly suck out the filthy things from the crew member's head through subtle squirming. The black spots in the crew member's pupils were also slowly disappearing. The brain became normal due to the touch of the conch's tentacles. It even replaced the seawater between the meninges and the brain to clean the brain. Relatively speaking, due to the many flaws in the conch used by the crew, it was a low-cost, defective product. While using the conch to sleep, his body also underwent subtle fish-like changes. A few smooth fish scales grew from his skin, and his back became more curved. Conch, sleep, Murloc. These are just the superficial problems of the town. If I want to go deeper into the problem, I have to start with the conch. Others will definitely be able to fully infiltrate the port town and find out some of the problems inside the port town. What I need to do is to go out to sea and take a look. Han Dong pretended to be a fisherman and walked on the coastline. Soon, he found a fleet that was planning to go out to sea to catch conches in a dock. They were currently recruiting new crew members on a large scale. The Galantis was a medium-sized steamship. It was 72 meters long and 14 meters wide. It was equipped with several steam engines for navigation and large-scale catching of conches in the ocean. The strange thing was, for such a ship that often needed to go out to sea to catch conches, the crew should be fixed. Even if a small number of people were temporary workers, it was impossible to recruit crew members on such a large scale, unless a large number of crew members were consumed every time they went out to sea. However, this situation made Han Dong even more interested. He immediately went forward to report. The person in charge of recruiting crew members was a bald, brawny man with a height of 2 meters. His eyeballs were white and protruding outward. The bridge of the nose degenerated and disappeared, leaving only 2 nostrils. The teeth in his mouth had also turned from square to sharp. This was the fishman transformation caused by the long-term use of inferior conch shells. However, the burly man didn't mind. Such a murloc form would give him greater strength and excellent athletic ability in the sea, which would increase his chances of survival when he went out to sea. It didn't matter if he was ugly. As long as he had a high-quality conch, there would naturally be girls willing to accompany him. At the same time, there was a box of weapons next to the brawny man. It was filled with low-quality single-shot rifles, which gave people the feeling that they had been soaked in water and could jam at any time. Welcome to the Galantis. I'm the current captain. Take your gun and get on board. We will set off as soon as everyone is here. As usual, you'll get 10 pieces of inferior conch. This kind of death warrior recruitment didn't require any information level at all and didn't even need to ask for names. After all, when they returned from the sea, most of them would be missing. Even the captain could be changed at any time. Only those who survived more than 3 times at sea in a row were worthy of knowing their names. Han Dong picked up a rifle at random and directly boarded the ship. More than 50 crew members had gathered on the Atlantis. Most of them looked gloomy with dark circles under their eyes. Most of them hadn't slept for more than a day. They belonged to the lowest class of labor in the port city, or it could be said that they were the superfluous part of overpopulation. Without a job, they couldn't buy the daily necessities, conch. They could only come to the port and gamble with their lives and their luck. It seems that the conch is not only a daily necessity, but also the only currency circulating here. Han Dong limped all the way to the front of the deck and stared at the deep sea shrouded in thick fog. For some reason, an inexplicable sense of sleepiness hit him. Although the mental attack was immediately dispersed by mad laughter, Han Dong also immediately turned his head to look at the other crew members on the ship. Some of them couldn't stand it anymore and began to open their eyelids to avoid falling asleep during the voyage. After a while, 100 crew members were recruited. The bald captain carried a precision rifle that could fire continuously and held a sharp and heavy machete in his hand. His fierce appearance brought an invisible sense of deterrence to the newly recruited crew members. This voyage is estimated to take 24 hours. The salvage of the conch can be basically completed with the fishing equipment provided by my little beauty Glantis. You only need to do one thing. During the voyage, especially during the salvage process, please be sure to protect my little beauty. Then, if any of you can help unload the cargo, I will reward you with an extra conch. However, I have to say the rules first. No crew members are allowed to secretly use the conch to sleep before we return to the port, and absolutely no one is allowed to keep the conch. Once I find out, I believe the thing in the sea will be happy to accept your body. Cheer up and prove your only value. Accompanied by thick black smoke from the chimney of the Atlantis, the ship officially set off. When the ship sailed into the thick fog on the surface of the sea, there were already crew members who became nervous due to fear. They widened their bloodshot eyes and stared at the surface of the sea. Grumble. In the fog, some slippery object had secretly climbed up the ship's iron sheet. They first wrapped around a crew member who was close to the edge. Splash. There was only the sound of water splashing. A crew member was missing. Only one of his leather shoes and the soak gun were left on the deck. Just as more tentacles were sticking close to the hull of the ship began to tremble. Han Dong slowly stretched his head out of the deck, opened his eyes wide, and stared at a large octopus lurking under the sea. Just a glance. All the tentacles that tried to climb up the deck were retracted. The large octopus quickly abandoned the target and quickly dived. However, in Han Dong's view, this large octopus was just a small animal hovering in the port. The real horror must be hidden in the depths of the fog, which was the area where the conch was salvaged. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.